How y'all doing today? Um, that was a good win against an exhausted team. I got to tell you, the first half drove me absolutely nuts. When I watched the first quarter, I was like, I'm going to be so mad on today's live stream. I'm going to forget about every single decided, attempt at making peace and trying to be a lot more positive, and I'm just going to rip this team because that was hard to watch. There are a lot of ways to win a game. There are a ton of ways to win a game. In any game you want to talk about, whether you're talking soccer, chess, basketball, anything, there's a million different ways, a million different approaches, and you can still win. But what I want to see from this team with this few games left until the play in, until their inevitable, do or die play in tournament entry in which everything is riding on that. That's such a crazy thing. Is what we're watching with March Madness right now, right? Anything can happen in one game. Everyone's brackets are destroyed when it comes to March Madness. And what I want to see this team develop is good habits, better habits. I want to see them get out of some of the worst habits that they've had so far, and I want to see them get into better habits. And I saw a lot of bad habits come back in the first half. I saw a lot of Pascal Siakam sort of hunting for his own. Fred VanVleet in particular, his numbers were so awesome. And I'm just watching it and I'm like, I know what he's doing. I know what he's doing. He's running that 5-1 pick and roll with, Jakob Pertl in the center of the court. And it's benefiting him because Jakob is amazing at catching it and really good at finishing it. And yeah, you're looking at it and you're like, man, it's a lot more effective than throwing the ball to Scotty Barnes for a fadeaway right now. It's a lot more effective than throwing the ball to Pascal Siakam for dribble ISOs. And it's a lot more effective than throwing the ball to OG Anunoby in the post as he loses his balance and falls out of bounds. So who am I to complain that you're going to this thing that's consistently producing results? But then you think about it and you're like, man, both these guys are free agents. These guys are free agents. And this is not going to work against a better team. He's not going to be able to penetrate into the paint, shove off, and finish against a better team. It's just not going to happen. It's not happening against the Bucks or the Celtics. And those are your two first-round opponents if you get that far. It's not going to happen in a one-game play-in situation when you got Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, whoever you face. This isn't sustainable. So why do it? Why do it if it's not sustainable? If there's a million different ways that you can beat an exhausted Minnesota team, why do it this way? I got to tell you, second half, a lot better. A lot better. Ball moved a lot more. Saw a lot more guys get involved. Raptors got a balanced attack. So, we adjust. We change. I was mad at the first half. Second half, not a lot to be as mad about. I think the defense dialed up. Let's take a look at it. So the Timberwolves, of course, coming off back-to-back, they came in really late. They're missing Anthony Edwards. They're missing Karl Anthony Towns. They're not a very good team. And on top of that, they're playing on the road against a team that's won 6 straight. There's a very good reason the Raptors were heavily favored to win this game. And they did not disappoint. So, yeah. Who really showed up? Naz Reid, I guess. McDaniels. Honestly, you know what? Congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves, man. I got to tell you, there was a part of today's game where I was just impressed with this young team, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. There's a lot of players on the team that I like. Josh Minot, I was probably higher than most on him in the draft, and for good reason. He's an interesting prospect. And I saw a very young team, pretty disorganized team at times, a team that's a little bit new, a little bit new to each other because obviously Mike Conley was a pretty late addition at the deadline. And I saw a team that tried to play together, tried to play the right way, just ran out of gas, right? Ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. Were heavily, heavily stacked against a way more talented team. Probably not something the Raptors are very used to this season so far, is just being significantly more talented than the team that they're playing against, but they were tonight. So not a lot of positives that I can say for the Minnesota Timberwolves other than that they competed and tried to move the ball. For the Raptors, they get 5 players in double digits. I don't know why I heard 6 during the broadcast, but they get 5 players. Oh, sorry, 6. Sorry, 6 players in double digits, including Gary Trent Jr. on the bench. I don't know why Gary Trent Jr. is always the last person listed on ESPN's box score. It's almost easy to just forget him there. But Gary Trent Jr. had a hell of a game, 5 steals. He was very disruptive, and yeah, he capitalized on a lot of that, creating a lot of chaos in the passing lanes. Christian Coloco got some burn in the first half, didn't really get back in until garbage time. Guess Nick Nurse didn't like what he saw there, preferring to go with Will Barton and Chris Boucher and Gary Trent Jr., kind of a tight 8-man rotation. Fred VanVleet with a relatively, compared to his standards, very efficient game, 10 for 18. Again, I think he dominated possessions. I think he definitely made the offense sort of serve his purposes and what he wanted to do. But, his pick and roll partner, 7 for 8 from the field, Jakob Poeltl, nothing to complain about there. 14 points, 11 rebounds. And for Pascal Siakam, another game that looks more like the stat line that he's used to. 27 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. OG Anunoby, 9 attempts. Scotty Barnes, 10 attempts. I didn't love this game for Scotty, to be honest. He had that turnover to start. And, it's pretty obvious when a guy is just not vibing, not clicking. And again, plus minus is not a great stat, but he sort of missed his shift at the end of the third quarter, didn't really get in. His minutes sort of reflect the game that he had to some extent. Kind of rode without him, chose to go with Gary Trent Jr. down the stretch in the fourth with the game sort of out of hand, and the lead grew further. At that point, it just sort of felt like the Raptors were sort of stomping on, a beaten opponent, but credit where credit is due. They played well down the stretch, and they had a pretty dominant fourth quarter. For Siakam, I like the fact that he took 6 threes. Don't love the fact that he only made 1, but keep taking them, and eventually they're gonna go in. And I think that he took good ones for the most part. Yeah, Scotty Barnes 3 for 10. Again, just not a great game. I realize how funny it is that I made that mid-range assassin video, and now naturally I'm gonna take the brunt of, the mid-range assassin stuff didn't look great tonight. We're going to talk a little bit today about the process, about not focusing too much on the day-to-day, but just sort of appreciating the process of what we're trying to do here. And yeah, this is a sort of weird live stream from my end because for the first time probably ever, I'm not seeing the other end of it, which is to say that I'm not able to see, for instance, how many people are watching on my end of the screen. I don't see it. It says 0. I know it's not 0. It's sort of weird, actually. And yeah, we have one caller in queue, but yeah, just to take a look at the team stats for a quick second here, and then we'll look at the sort of standings and see where teams stack right now. For the Raptors overall, it's always good when the Raptors shoot over 50% from the field, so that's great. 53% was good, and they shoot 33% from 3. I can't remember the last time the Raptors held an opponent to 22% from 3, but, the Minnesota Timberwolves there's just not a lot of talent on that team, man. I gotta be honest. Like Kyle Anderson taking threes, it's a pretty bad team. It's a pretty depleted team right now. And yes, they had a big game last night, but again, so much of losses, wins comes down to availability and schedule, and I just think this was a schedule loss for them. And yeah, I think they got into the paint a little too easy. 64 paint points is not great from that perspective. But yeah, I think the Raptors did a good job on the glass. 45 rebounds, not bad. And I think the Raptors got a really favorable whistle tonight. There was like a play where I counted 3 fouls in a row on the Raptors that were not called. It was an offensive foul, a defensive foul, and another offensive foul. And it was just like, wow, like this is interesting. Like, did Fred VanVleet blasting the refs actually work? Take a look quickly at the Eastern Conference standings here. Milwaukee is just sort of blitzing right now, right? Milwaukee and Philadelphia are really surging. Philadelphia with a big win tonight, and there are some teams that are just falling, right? I mean, the Knicks, obviously, since the trade deadline, since the addition of Josh Hart, have been on a spike up. And the Brooklyn Nets have been falling a little bit off. Maybe not off as much as people would think because they've been pretty much 500 over the last 10 games. But again, the top of this conference, with the exception of the Boston Celtics, is surging right now. And if you're the Raptors, I don't know what the wishful thinking here is. Maybe you catch Boston falling off a cliff. Maybe, you get a little bit lucky there, but they got a very tough test coming up tomorrow against the East leading Milwaukee Bucks on the road. And I think, if they win that game, I cannot imagine the exuberance from this fan base and how excited people are going to be. Obviously, it'll be hard. It'll be a long shot, but if the Raptors play the way they did tonight, they will not win that game for sure. But if they play a more balanced attack, if they play to their capabilities, if they guard really hard, they do have. Um, in terms of the play-in picture, obviously the Chicago Bulls are pretty much mollywopping the Miami Heat tonight. So they will put a little bit of distance between themselves and the Washington Wizards. And, the Raptors are just in the thick of it at this point. Really, upside. I don't know. Are the Nets catchable at this point? 8 games above 500? I think not, right? Again, one of my good practices, or one of my best practices that I like to practice when it comes to observing schedules and observing standings, is looking at losses and just seeing how easily can you make up the loss gap, right? 31 losses versus 36 losses. That's really the gap. And unfortunately, because of the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving contributions early in the season, the Nets hold the tiebreaker. So you do have to actually end up finishing with a better record than them to bounce them. That will be very difficult. However, Miami honestly feels catchable, right? They do feel catchable. And naturally, you're only a game behind Atlanta now. So, maybe the Raptors can end up seventh. Like, is that possible? Yeah, if they play to their capabilities, certainly. There aren't a lot of teams that can really stop what they want to do, as long as they don't beat themselves. And I think too often this season they have beaten themselves. So, yeah. First caller in. Quickly, sorry. Let's bring on the Western Conference standings. The West is a mess, honestly. The Denver Nuggets have sort of fallen off a lot, and losing to some really bad teams here, including the Raptors. And yeah, I still think they're going to figure it out, but Nikola Jokic, his defense has just been non-existent, and the Sacramento Kings, they don't scare me. Best record in years for that team. They're comfortably above 500. You know, um, they've clinched a record above 500 already. I mean, we've got some time to go. And 8-2 over the last 10. They're doing well, right? The Memphis Grizzlies, obviously the Ja Morant situation not helping, Dylan Brooks situation not helping. I mean, they have really fallen off. And there's an opportunity here for the Memphis Grizzlies to just, they could have taken the West, man. They really could have. And it feels like, with the suspension of Ja Morant, all the drama, everything, with the fine that Dylan Brooks is taking, it's just immaturity, really. It's a self-implosion. The Phoenix Suns and the LA Clippers join a very, and the Dallas Mavericks. This is a very interesting group of teams with, proven pedigree, talent, superstars. And, the Golden State Warriors, Minnesota Timberwolves, OKC Thunder, and Los Angeles Lakers make up the play-in, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of parity in the West, but I have a feeling that the NBA champion will come out of the East, whoever that is. And right now, obviously, prisoner of the moment kind of looks like the Bucks, but things can change. Things can change very quickly, but it feels like that's the team that's clicking at the right time. And if the Raptors do end up, eighth or seventh in the play-in, there's a very good chance you end up facing that team. So, if I don't know, I'm not saying championships, man, but yeah, I'm really not saying championships. Don't accuse me of that. But if you're gonna if you're gonna use this as experience, if the whole point of this is, oh, we want to get Scotty experience, we want to get, this core experience, well, who better to face than, the best team in the conference and possibly the NBA champion, right? We shall see. Anyway, let's bring on Mario. Mario, what's up?
Well, I watched the Timberwolves broadcast today, and it's a first, I think. It was Scotty Barnes in the Toronto Raptors was the opening presentation of the team. Usually it's, they talk about our all-stars, but now they wanted to talk about the rookie of the year.
That's nice.
And I take it he absolutely scorched them when we were there last, so they remembered. So
Yeah.
that was good to see. But yeah, I don't like it when Fred has three times as many shots as assists, which was happening most of the game. I don't know what he wound up at. And I don't like it when Pascal has X shots, Fred has X shots, and OG and Scotty together have X shots. And that's just completely not what we should be doing. You know, I know you share this opinion. We see it slightly differently, but I feel like we were absolutely blessed with Kyle Lowry. He would never let a guy like Scotty get out of the first quarter without setting him up on a for sure kind of thing. And that Scotty's scoreless or didn't score a bucket in the first half when Fred's racking up 15 shots. It's just like the lack of focus on our team's better when we get everybody going. And like I said, I mean, I know we've been spoiled for years and years and years and years, and that to me, Kyle was like a 90 something in terms of leadership on these, like 90 something out of 100, right? And Fred,
Okay.
a 45, you know what I mean? It's not the same thing at all. So, anyways, that's my comment on the Raptors. As far as the Timberwolves, interesting perspective from their broadcast. They want to draw parallels between Gobert and Pirtle. And
Yeah, everyone seems to be going down that road lately. I don't. I guess I see it. They're both efficient offensive players who can't score outside the paint. Although, I think Pirtle's like 5 times cheaper and a little bit younger,
for
and he's
sure,
not on the down. Like he's not on a clear decline in terms of impact. So yeah, that's. I mean, he's been better.
and beyond that, according to their color guy, he feels like when they played us earlier this year, we were contentious with each other. We had strife. We weren't a cohesive team. And that the leadership of Jakob Pertl has brought us together. And they say just chatting with us in the last 24 hours kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
feel like a different team. We feel like a team that's now together and focused. And they think it's Jakob's influence that he's a leader of sorts that has brought us together. And this is brand new to me. I just haven't heard anybody um, discussing Jakob as a leader like that. But, whatever.
He has a very calming influence. I've listened to him talk a few times, and I can just imagine, the impact he's probably having on the youth. I do want to address this comment. Black Clover greatness. I hope you're kidding when you say this. I think you're joking. I swear, I think you're joking. Please tell me you're joking, man. Fred is a better passer than Kyle? For real? Really? Kyle Lowry? Kyle Lowry is one of the best passers in the NBA. Fred VanVleet is not even close. He's not even the best passer on its own team. He's not even the second best passer on this team. Wow. There was a play tonight where Fred VanVleet made up his mind to end the half. Okay, if you remember this, he made up his mind. There was 8 seconds seconds to go in the half. He crosses half court. Then the Minnesota Timberwolves trap him. He picks up his dribble like a fool, and he throws it. He doesn't throw it to Scotty Barnes. He throws it at Scotty Barnes, to the point where honestly, if the guy had any smaller hands, he would have definitely it would have hit his head. Somehow Scotty catches it, gathers it so quickly, and fires it off perfectly to OG Anunoby in the corner, and Anunoby hits a three. And you have broadcasters saying, "What a great play!" And I'm just sitting there fuming. I was so mad. I was so mad. And I'm like, bro, why does this bother you? It bothers me because you have, as I mentioned in the opening, you have a million different ways that you can win a game. You do. I mean, Mario, you play chess, right? If you play against an inferior opponent, you can bring out your queen early. It's not a good idea, but you could do it.
I
You
get
can
away.
sacrifice a rook.
Yeah,
Shit, you can bring your king to the center of the court. You can bring your king to the center of the board and still win the game. If you're a 2000 level player playing against the 800 player, shit, you could probably sacrifice 3 pieces and still win. Does that mean you should do it? No. Does that mean playing that way makes you a better, chess player? No. Playing the way the Raptors played tonight, it was clear in the first half to me this was about numbers. Fred getting his numbers, getting his shot up. He airballed 2 3-pointers. I don't hear one word about that. You just airballing 3-pointers now? I have already pointed to, I don't know if people, watch some of those early morning lives, but these are Fred VanVleet's percentages. My God, like, do people think he can do this in a really tightly contested game against a really good team? Do they really think that he can be the guy? Yeah, I mean, he's never passed up an opportunity to remind, this fan base and the media space that he's him. He's never missed an opportunity to tell us that he's the best player on this team or the second best player or one of the 2 best players or the leader or whatever. I'm sick of it. I looked up because I'm working on a video about where has the development gone, right? That's sort of the point of this video, which is I saw, they flashed to Christian Coloco and Precious Achua on the bench, and next to them was like in street clothes, Jeff Doughton, and there's Scotty Barnes sitting there waiting to get in the game, and I'm just like, what is happening here? For years, I used to be so proud of this team for the way that they nurtured young talent, for the way that they brought along young talent, putting them in positions to succeed, constantly elevating them into, because, youth is being a first, second year, third year player in the NBA. It's very difficult. Everything's new. You're trying to adjust. You're dealing with vets. You're dealing with politics for the first time. And quite frankly, it helps to have an organization that knows what it's doing when it comes to your development. That's not just going to bury you. That's not going to mishandle you. That's not going to, neglect your development, because you got to look at it from the perspective of every NBA athlete is a source of hope for their city, for their family, for their extended family. And when you start to consider what has been allowed to happen, I'm not saying Masai's making this happen, but what has been allowed to happen. You've had Malachi Flynn, who has posted negative box plus minus for 3 straight years, negative EPM for 3 straight years. He's not getting better. I looked at Precious Achua's per 100 stats, per 75 advanced stats. He's not better at literally anything. There's a solid case to be made that Precious Achua was a better player 3 years ago. I could easily say he's a better shot blocker 3 years ago. He's not improving. You can make a case that Scotty Barnes is having an almost equivalent season analytically that he did last year. That was not expected and not even within the realm of possibilities coming into this year. That someone who works as hard as he has, who's developed the way he has for the last 3 years, that he would just stagnate. OG Anunoby, you could argue he's regressed. He had a high point earlier this season, but overall in the season, he's flatlined-ish. So who's getting better? And I mean, isn't that the whole point of this team? Isn't that why Justin Champagnie so proudly said that he chose the Toronto Raptors? He chose us because why? Because we develop. I am worried about Christian Coloco. I truly am. I am worried about Precious Achua because these are 2 guys who have all the potential in the world. All the potential in the world. I mean, they have very advanced skills for guys their size. They are hard workers. By all accounts, they are very hard workers. I still remember Masai Ujiri's press conference when Kyle Lowry was traded in that sign and trade, and he said so passionately about Precious Achua. I called him and I said, "You're mine." And I remember thinking to myself, Masai Ujiri is one of the best scouts in the NBA. His guy's eye for talent is unparalleled. He spotted Giannis, spotted Shea, spotted Scotty. I mean, he has some misses, but not often. OG, Norm, like my God. But the gravy train is done. Gravy train is over. There's no more, Gary Trent Jr. is flatlined. And these guys are 23, 22, 24 years old. They're not supposed to be flatlining this early into their career. You're supposed to be able to see some sort of development. Malachi Flynn, Delano Banton, who is getting better here? I mean, Delano Banton, I could make an argument, has gotten a little bit better this year. But now he's been completely in the doghouse. Why? Why? What? I understand you can't play everybody, and I understand you're trying to win, and I get that. I definitely get that. But it feels to me like you have a player holding this franchise hostage, and it's not right. And I don't want to give up an entire year of development so that Fred VanVleet can chase the bag. I just don't. I don't think it's right. I feel bad. I truly do. And it's just, I'm not trying to hate on anybody. I'm just trying to say it from a really human perspective. Precious Achua is losing millions of dollars on his next contract by having a season like this because he's eligible for contract end of next year. And, after a season like this, I mean, his next contract is not, the debate is no longer, is Precious Achua fighting for, 20 million or 25 million? The debate now is Precious Achua going to be out of the league in 2 years? And I
Yeah,
mean, he won't be, but like, you get my point. Like this is not where we were on Precious Achua 12 months ago. So either I'm supposed to sit here and believe that every single young player got into a room and said, okay, we're just going to stop developing, or there is something seriously related between chemistry and development, leadership and development, focus and development. And some people could say it's because we lost Jama. Some people could say it's because you lost Jama, and there's people that sort of leave, and when they leave your organization, you start to feel the impact. And we've all heard about Darvin Ham and Phil Handy and a lot of assistant coaches around the NBA that get credited for development of young players. But I am just I'm trying to feel it. I'm trying to feel it. How would I feel if I was Malachi Flynn? I'm heading for potentially and Precious Achua. They're both in the same boat. They're both in the same boat. They're both 2020 draft picks. They're both in the same boat, and they're both fighting for their NBA lives right now. And they're being told, and I'm listening to Jack Armstrong at the end of the game, telling me, you didn't watch the Raptors podcast. I did, unfortunately, and I'm listening to Jack Armstrong telling me that this is the true test of an NBA career. This is the true test of whether you're going to make it, is how you deal with adversity and how you choose to get better. And I'm just like, and how you can sacrifice for the team. And I'm just like, attitude reflects leadership, my friend. And yeah, it sucks that Precious Achua has regressed. It sucks that his body language has not been great the last 5 games, and I know that. It sucks that a guy who just a month ago I was like, is he going to start for the rest of the season, is now in the doghouse, and he can't get minutes. He's so bad now, right? He just can't get minutes. This agile, incredible defender who's elite at the rim, you're probably your best rebounder, if not your second best rebounder. He can't get minutes. He's 23 years old. He can't get minutes on this team. We're so in contention right now. This season is so do or die. We're catering to a superstar here, right? I had to understand. I understood OG's minutes taking a dip when we had Kawhi. You had Kawhi. You had Paul. You had Marc Gasol. There was a serious I'm not gonna fight you if you don't play DeLon Wright the year that you had Kawhi. You know what I mean? I get it. I get it. There's bigger priorities here, but this is missed timing. This is thinking like you're in the end game when you're on the fourth move. It's just sad. It's just sad. It's sad. It's sad to watch.
I do see it slightly differently. I mean,
Sure.
I agree. So frequently, you're saying something that I would perceive as 100, and I'm saying something that I would perceive as 88 or 92. So
Mm-hmm.
we're close on a scale on one level, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not happy with the team. But I also feel like there's a whole bunch of conversation about why it could be the way it is that makes sense to me, which is it's kind of like the statement, if you start dating a girl who's cheating on her boyfriend and then she becomes your girlfriend, do you have an expectation that you're special and that she's not going to cheat on you? Or did you pick someone who's a cheater? So the the point I'm trying to make is, if I'm Messiah and I really want to impact Scotty, I want to show Scotty that I'm loyal to the guys who are here before he got here, and that I'm going to be loyal to him too, but that he can trust I'm loyal, because I'm not going to just throw Pascal and Fred out with the bathwater. And I do want Scotty to be in front of them. And if it's still not going on next year, but to me, it feels like they have this weird Nick Nurse offense. Everybody loves Nick Nurse defense, but the weird Nick Nurse offense is, it's all going to be flow and just do whatever you think's okay at the time, and we trust you, and just, you know. And so when you tell guys like Fred and Pascal that they're going to be the number one and number two option for the year, they're going to behave kind of like what they're behaving right now. And I would have hoped, and I still do, that they could be most of what they are being and still move the ball better, and still have Fred say, look, it's late in the second quarter and Scotty doesn't have a basket. This is unacceptable. Instead of shooting this drive, I will dribble until he's open and pass him the ball to finish. Why? Because I want him more online for the fourth quarter.
I think the problem here is, who is the author of the offense? Who is the decider? I hate to say decider because I feel George Bush ruined that term for me. I am the decider, if you remember that one. But my God, like, who is deciding the offense? Because look, when we walked into last year, not this year, last year, I listened to the press conference and I heard that Fred VanVleet was going to play a little bit more off the ball. Didn't happen. When we came into this year, I definitely heard Fred VanVleet say he was going to try to play off the ball. And it didn't happen. It happened for 14 games, and then we abandoned it, and he fought it, and then we tried to implement it again, and then he played like absolute shit. Then he went on his press tour, and he said that it's all, everything. Look, it's one thing to say, okay, like, look, Scotty's had plenty of chances, right? In a sense, he's had plenty of chances. He's had chances on the ball. He's been shaky. OG's had chances to be featured.
This game, I don't know.
Pardon?
I was watching. As soon as Scotty got the ball, he immediately passed to Fred, deferred, and set a screen for him. That happened like 5 or 6 or 7 times in the first half. So,
sure. Look, Jakob is one of the best screeners in the NBA. So if he sets a screen, look, the whole thing I'm trying to implement here, and I'm trying to convey this to people who are saying things like, someone just wrote here that, the Raptors offense is better when it runs through we're better with, okay, so Clove Martin here. I don't know if you're Black Clover's, second account here, but the name sounds very familiar here. We're better with Fred running the offense. I don't think so. You're never going to be better with a guy who can't finish in the paint properly and does not see over the defense, is not dynamic as a passer. You're never going to be better with that type of guy running the offense. He should be the third option to run the offense behind Pascal and Scotty. I don't want him making decisions for when Scotty's going to score. That's stupid. Scotty's a point guard. I don't care if people think he's a center, a power forward. He's not. He's a point guard. I'm going to trust him on that one. He's a point guard. I'm going to trust Brian on that one. He's a point guard. I'm going to trust the fact that he played point guard in high school. He's a point guard. I'm going to trust the fact that he played point guard at AAU in university. This is not like some sort of experimentation thing. He is a point guard. And you were asking him to play basically shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and basically anything but point guard in order to appease Fred VanVleet and Jakob Poeltl pick and roll. And you know what? Part of it's on him too, because he's got to do more with the opportunities. He got an opportunity right in the beginning of the game. But the problem is, what does it do to the psychology of a player? Now, I've watched, this is not the only team that does this. Okay, absolutely not. There are other teams that do this too. The Houston Rockets are a great example of a team where I feel like a really great talent like Jabari Smith Jr. is just being abused by a very selfish team, right? Where he will take a couple of shots in the first quarter. If those 2 shots don't go in, the ball is not touching his hand for the next 25 minutes. And that's a really frustrating way to play basketball. I am more of a process-based thinker, and I believe that the offense must run through a process in that sense. So, the right shot should always be taken. And if the right shot is Fred VanVleet taking a layup, which it rarely ever is, by the way, then sure. And if the right shot is an off, is a pick and roll between Fred and Jakob, where Jakob is the roll man, and Jakob can then create something out of that, that's great too. There is, however, an idea in my mind that I can predict who is going to take the shot 20 seconds before the shot is taken.
That's a
And
problem.
that is a sign of a terrible offense.
Yeah.
And if I played a game tonight where I tried to play a game where like I had to guess the offense at the start of the shot clock and say what is going to happen at the end of the shot clock, I would have been right about 65 to 70% of the time. And that is a terrible thing to do because that does not factor in what the defense took away. It does not factor. I mean, I watched Fred VanVleet botch a frigging 3-on-2 fast break. I saw him bounce the ball like some of his passes are so inaccurate that when the guy he passes to misses and people say, "Oh, the guys just need to make shots." And it's just like, no, it's hard to make a shot when you get a pass that crappy, you know? And one of the things that I really liked about Samson's article on Scotty's passing was he was able to differentiate between the types of assists. A lot of fans when they look at assist totals, they say, "Oh, this guy had 10 assists, he's unselfish. This guy had 0 assists, he's very selfish." That's just not the way it works, you know? And that's often the thing that people will use, when I'll say like, "Oh, Siakam was really ball dominant tonight." They'd be like, "Oh, well, how can you say that? He had 7 assists." And not assists are not all equal. There are some assists where you generate the advantage for the player that you are passing to. Some assists are just by happenstance. You pass the ball to a guy, it's a sloppy pass, it's off target, it's the wrong guy, and somehow he still makes it. Guess what? You still get an assist. Shouldn't count the same. And look, analytics are so far behind on defense, and they're so far behind on passing. The only thing that I believe analytics are really great at is capturing scoring. And Fred VanVleet, takes great, in terms of shot quality, the way they measure shot quality as an analytic, he's mastered it. He takes a lot of threes, takes a lot of layups. He's
What you're saying is very similar to Omnistat, the baseball thing I developed. And the first defensive play of the game, if you go back and look at it, this is the the answer to that play is
mm-hmm,
maybe the answer to basketball. Because what we see is we see a guy get past his first defender on the perimeter, drive to the hoop. OG shows up in time. OG rises up. He's got no shot and he has to pass, and the shot clock runs out.
right.
I don't think OG gets any credit for that in that system. And
Mm-hmm,
in my system, you go from a 70% layup if that helper's late, right? It's
mm-hmm,
70-80% to get that shot all of a sudden, to we don't even get a shot off. Like, that's a huge amount of value in terms of that play.
right.
And nothing that's being done is capturing that. And in baseball, it's really friggin' easy, relatively, because baseball has no clock. You don't run out of time, you run out of outs. And because it's stop time all the way, we
Right.
were able to unbelievably accurately assess the difference between being up 4-2 with 2 outs or being up 4-2 at the end of the inning. You see what
Right.
I'm saying? Because it's not about time; it's only about outs. So anyway, so we found, or I found, or whatever it actually is, a corollary between offense and defense where you can do it's a zero sum thing. Every time the offense gets something positive, the defense gets an equal negative. So what I'm saying is OG's action there is a substantial positive in terms of that possession, and yet we have no ability to rate it at this point. And including that action is part of moving forward with the game of basketball into a pure analytical understanding of what's going on, in my opinion.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks a lot, Mario, for calling in. Appreciate that. There's a lot to chew on. I think, yeah, there's a lot of gaps and things that we don't measure. I think tracking data is getting better, but I think we have such a long way to go before we can accurately, be able to say this player is this way or this player is that way or this player is definitively better than this person by this much. Like this one metric thing has just eluded analysts forever now. So being able to do this in a way that makes sense, that accurately captures the game without massive gaps, I think we're still a bit ways away from it. I just don't think we're looking at enough information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe the transfer from the baseball onto the basketball,
Hmm.
because we did solve it with baseball. Like I said, it's a very, very,
Baseball's different.
what's that?
Yeah, baseball
Yeah,
is
it's
very
very
different.
different. But anyway, did you get an email? I couldn't. I only found Instagram when I went looking for you, which I can't.
No, you just check about. When you check about on our YouTube channel, you'll see an email there. All right.
I didn't. But
Yeah.
I sent it to info at Pendants.
Yeah, that's not going to be checked by me. That's probably going to be checked by one of our staff. Anyway, all right, Mario. It's pensarifilms at gmail.com, man. All right.
Okay.
All
See
right.
ya.
Cheers. See ya. Okay, next up we got SGE.
What up,
SGE, what's up?
Rob? How are
How's it
you,
going, man?
man? How you been? Been a while.
Yeah.
Um, so, man, I watched maybe 70% of the game, 60% of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm coming to the conclusion that it's not really. Scotty is in a different situation than everybody who was in his draft class,
Yes, he
and
is.
it's not necessarily fair to compare him to some of these guys because there are other guys who are just way more empowered than Scotty. Franz Wagner, today I watched him against the Clippers. He gets way more touches. He gets way more like sets run for him. Then I'm watching Giddy the other night, who gets to literally run the offense when Chase it's down. And then
Mm-hmm.
Mobley, of course, he's just in a different position. He's a center. He gets better. Like it's just different for him. So, and then sometimes I'm like, I have these harsh like indictments on Scotty's game, and I'm like, but it's not fair because you never get to see him have a 20-shot game, a 17-shot game, a 19-shot game.
Who's that on? Is that on him or is that on
That's
the
on the
offense?
coaching. That's on the coaching staff. At some point, like
I don't
I'm
think
watching,
so.
I'm
I
watching
don't
these
think so.
comments talk about Fred VanVleet, and I'm like, I can just tell half these guys don't watch the league if you're supporting Fred VanVleet in this manner.
So here's the thing. It's a complicated thing. I wish I could tell you very simply, oh, it's the coaches, or oh, it's Fred VanVleet, or oh, it's Scotty. But it is actually complicated, and I guess it's worth exploring. So here's what an offense needs in order to succeed. It needs people who are willing to move the ball. It cannot just be Fred dribbles up, takes a shot, Scotty dribbles up, takes a shot. It can't be like that, right? There has to be some level of off-ball movement. There has to be, and we call that like off-ball creation. So how does Scotty setting a screen for Pascal, Pascal coming up, make Pascal's shot a little bit easier? There has to be offensive rebounding. There has to be defense. There has to be rebounding. There's so much more to the game than simply scoring, obviously. So here's the thing. If you're going to ask, if you're going to have a couple of guys who just refuse to do all that other stuff, right? If you have guys who are just going to refuse to move off the ball, they're going to refuse to be connectors, they're going to refuse to pass to the open guy, you're going to lose. You're going to lose a lot of games. And that's what the Raptors did. They lost a lot of games as OG was trying to get his, Gary's trying to get his, Pascal's trying to get his, Fred's trying to get his, Scotty's trying to be an all-star. Okay. Well, I mean, Scotty's had a couple of 20-shot attempt games, right? He has. I mean, he had that game against Atlanta where he missed that layup. That was a game where he was very primarily featured. It was almost awkward to watch, right? There have been games like that. There have been entire stretches in the fourth quarter where he's basically like, give the ball to Scotty, get out of the way. So we've seen Scotty being featured, and he's done well in
But do
cases.
you feel like he gets force fed ever?
I don't think he needs to be
I
force
know,
fed.
I know it's not his game. I know it's not his game, and I know he plays like. But do you think that would bode well for his development? Like 4 games, 5 games in a row, Scotty, you take the first corner, kind of like some Jonas Valanciunas. Let's get you going first.
No, I think what will do well and wonders for Scotty is to be on the ball as a primary creator, and for Fred to permanently locate his ass into off ball movement, pop ups, stand in the corner, go do something else, because his on ball creation and his passing ability is probably like his most elite skill. And when you force him to do everything else, you're pulling him away from his elite skill. Like now look, I covered it in the live stream that we did a couple of days ago, where I
Okay.
said almost every single player on this team is pretty one dimensional in a sense, right? Yeah, Pascal Siakam, he's like a paint finisher, and he's a little less than league efficient from just about everywhere else. You can say he can shoot threes, but he's not a 3-point shooter.
No,
You
not
know,
at all.
you you
Not at
you
all.
can say he can make mid-range shots, but he's not Kevin Durant. He's not DeMar DeRozan from the mid-range.
Not
So,
even Brandon Ingram.
right. So, not Luka Doncic. Not, there's a lot of
Yeah.
guys, right? So, and I mean, so like even OG, right? Like you can
Yeah.
say OG can hit threes, but is OG like a sniper from three? No.
Very
Is
stationary. Very stationary 3 point
right.
shooter.
And exactly. So basically you have very one-dimensional players trying to add second dimensions to their game, right? Fred VanVleet is very limited in what he can do, right? In my opinion, he's very limited, but he's not quite as limited as some of his teammates, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's just further along. He's just further along in his development. He's older and he's had more experience, and so he can do a few more things. And so, you could ask Fred VanVleet to lean away from his strengths so that some other guys could have a chance to lean into their strengths, and then they could have, a chance. But no, what this offense has chosen to do is to put Fred and Jakob into the most ideal situation for their growth and development and whatever, their ascension, their stats, and everyone else is being forced to adjust. This would be like if the Los Angeles Clippers decided, hey, Kawhi, Russell Westbrook can't shoot. So we're going to need you to set screens for Russell Westbrook so that he can get open for
Hmm.
layups. You're catering to the wrong player. You're catering to
Yeah.
the wrong player, and it's backwards. Moving to like asking Pascal to adjust to sort of play out of themselves, to play away from their strengths. And Scotty's greatest strength is as a playmaker, is by far his greatest strength. And his second greatest strength is probably, as a post up type of big. And right now, everything else is just developing and expanding, and he's got to, you know,
So you're
who
saying where Fred wants to eat is where Scotty needs to eat from.
No, what I'm saying is that in order for Fred to be as effective as he needs to be, right, he needs a role partner. So if you
Okay.
recall, in Scotty's rookie season, Scotty was his role partner. Do you remember that in the first like 8, 9 games before Pascal
Yeah,
Siakam
yeah.
left
I
in the
even remember
15th?
in the Boston game. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah. So
early in the
like
year. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, Scotty sets a pick for Fred. Fred gets to run the pick and roll,
yeah.
and if the screen is great and the defender goes under, then he can just pop up for three, which is exactly what he needs. He needs space because he's undersized. And if they don't play Scotty well enough, then Fred can just roll down and he can give him one of these little pocket passes or something like that, and he pick up a quick assist. And
Yeah.
Scotty's reasonably efficient finishing at the rim. He's not quite Jakob Poeltl though, right? So everything there
But
caters
that's like
to.
so not fair to Scotty. That like comparing him to Jakob there.
I mean,
Like, he's like such a good
in
finisher, Jakob.
yes, but what I'm saying there is that the role effectively becomes the same thing, which is to free Fred up to make a decision with the basketball to either shoot or pass. And what I'm trying to say is that that's not actually what I wanted to see coming into this
Hmm.
season. What I wanted to come in see coming into this season is for Fred to play the role that Will Barton is playing right now, which is, secondary creator. Look, I'm not saying minutes, I'm saying role.
No, I
When
know,
Will
I know,
Barton
I
is
know. But I'm with
when
you. I'm with you.
Will Barton is on the court, Will Barton is not featured. When Will Barton is
Yeah.
on the court, Is that like sometimes he brings it up, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he goes two, three possessions without touching the basketball.
I'll give you a comparison. Do you think he should be playing this like the similar role of Terrence Mann, Fred VanVleet?
Terrence Mann.
Yeah, like
You mean Trey
sometimes
Man?
like no Terrence Mann. Like I watched a lot of Orlando. I watched the past few Clippers games. I watched the one against the
Terrence Mann
Warriors.
plays for the Clippers,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the Orlando Magic.
No, but they played the Orlando today.
Oh, okay.
And then I watched the Golden State game with Clippers Warriors, and I
Hmm.
just saw a lot of Terrence Mann with the ball. I saw a lot of Terrence Mann kind of carving up smaller defenders from the Warriors. Is that where you think Fred VanVleet
No, because
coming off the bench?
Terrence Mann's a good finisher.
Okay,
No, I think this comment sums it up. Fred VanVleet is Patty Mills. Yeah,
I'm
if
with
Patty
it.
Mills had decided to not play in San Antonio, if Patty Mills was a selfish, was way more selfish, then yeah, he could have easily, Patty Mills is probably sitting here watching Fred VanVleet do this shit and being like, shit, I could have done this too. You know, it's not conducive to winning. Look, I have to remember that this is a long season. Okay, this is a very long season. When we came into this season, people were saying that Boston was going to fall off a cliff. Those people looked really stupid for about 4 months. Now those people are starting to, pound their chest and say, see, this is what I told you. This is what I told you. You need Ime Udoka. See, um, there were people who were saying the New Orleans Pelicans were ready to take the step to championship contention. The New Orleans Pelicans may not make the playoffs. There were people who were saying that Dame Lillard's return is going to officially, vault the Portland Trailblazers because they have, Jeremy Grant, who's like the best second option that Dame's had since CJ, and that's going to launch them into like a seriously scary playoff team. They're not. They might not make the play-in. Um, Look, early in the season, Indiana was surging. You know, absolutely, they were firmly in the playoff picture. They may not make the play-in, right?
Yeah.
The Raptors came into the season with expectations of potentially ascending to the top of the East. If I told
Yeah,
you that,
100% they did.
if I told you that, at the beginning of the season, what, like, if you'd ask me, like, what is the upside for the Raptors? I would say second or third in the East. And what's the
But
downside?
what did they
Six.
show you? What did they show you in the 22 playoffs to make you think that? Like not you, but like what did they do to make them think that they're ready for that jump?
Well, number one, I think a lot of this was baked into the fact that you were a young team, that
Mm-hmm.
had just 1 year together. A lot of minutes had been given to Scotty and Delano as rookies in order to, make that jump. Precious Achiuwa was very young. You're adding Otto Porter. Fred's, hopefully going to be healthy. He was only healthy for half the year. Pascal's hopefully going to be healthy. He was also only healthy for about 50-ish games, 60 games last year. And then obviously
Mm-hmm.
the growth of Scotty Barnes, the expected growth of Delano Banton or Malachi Flynn, one of those guys. There's a lot of different lottery tickets that you sort of bought in terms of if one of them popped, but none of them popped. Not one at all. In fact,
Who's
they
that
all
on
went the
though?
other way. Well, that's my point. I think that's on leadership. I really
Fact.
do.
Okay, we're on
You
the same
know,
page.
yeah, like I think that's on leadership. But I also believe that, at some point, look, let me ask you a question. You play basketball?
Yeah, I've hooped my whole life.
You've hooped your whole life. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And you're the right person to be talking to about this. Have you ever played with like a really selfish player?
Come on now, that's all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Wait, are you a selfish player?
Yeah. I just gun, bro. But I'm a really good shooter. Like I'm a phenomenal shooter.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Okay.
But like
So
no, I get like I also have played with selfish people who have attitude. I'm not one of the selfish people who have
great.
attitude.
Okay.
Like
Yeah. Selfish people with
but I'm
attitude.
not gonna
Okay.
just be ignorant and tell you I don't like hunt for my shot. But like
Okay, cool. Okay, let's put it this way. I don't consider myself a selfish player. I've never been a selfish player. I always would prefer to find the right shot. And I always liked playing that way, and I liked playing with other players who played that way as well. It always felt like everything was easy and smooth and everything was connected and everything made a lot more sense. And I remember this one time we did this tournament, and there was a future D1 guy in that tournament. It was a 3-on-3 tournament, and we going up against this dude, and we were all like, "Oh, we're never gonna like we got no chance." I think I was 16, 17 years old, and the other two players that were on my team were the same age. And this dude's an 18-year-old, guy who just committed. I think he was playing at West Hill at the time, and he was committed. And I got to tell you, we actually won that game, and we won it through team because all three of us committed that it didn't matter who took the shot as long as the right shot was taken. We never looked at each other wrong when one of us missed a shot. We just had a relentless commitment to playing the right way. And I tell you, like, that was very rare in a 3-on-3 tournament, in a random summer in Toronto.
Especially on threes, yeah. Especially threes. Like,
so when you play to win, there are certain things that you're going to do, right? Even if no one around you is going to do them. You're going to defend. If you're playing to win, you're going to defend. 100%. Don't like, I don't like hearing, someone say like, I'm all about winning, and then you don't defend. Fuck that. You're going to move the ball. You're going to move the ball. You're going to make sure your teammates get touches and they don't fall out of rhythm, because that is a very important part of offense, is to be unpredictable. You're going to make sure that you, take accountability. You're going to make sure that when you fuck up, you let your guy go past you. You drop the pass. You put up your hand and you say, my bad. These are all things that are conducive to and typically very symptomatic of good teams that are connected and are playing to win. When you watch the 18-19 Raptors, they played this way. If Kawhi screwed up, it doesn't even need to be said. You just look at Kawhi, he'll look at Kyle. These types of things are not done on losing teams. Losing teams, everyone's looking to point at each other. No one's covering for each other. Now, the loser looks around, like the real loser, like the loser ass person. He looks around at people not defending. He says, "Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Well, I guess we don't defend around here. So I guess I'm not going to defend either." Because the loser thinks to himself, if you're not going to cover my ass when I get blown by, I'm not covering yours. And that's how teams lose. Yeah. That's how people like Christian Wood play basketball. No offense to Christian Wood. Actually, all offense to Christian Wood. I don't like watching Christian Wood play basketball. That's how Christian Wood plays basketball. That's how a lot of young teams play basketball. I get mine, you get yours. You don't cover for me, I don't cover for you. Scotty Barnes does not play basketball that way, ever. If you don't pass to Scotty, he's not going to retaliate by not passing to you. And he's still going to make the right pass. If you don't cover for him defensively because he gets blown by, he's not going to not cover for you. He's always going to try to do the
He's
right
loyal
thing.
to the game. He's loyal to the game to a fault.
Absolutely. No, not to a fault. No.
Well, sometimes I wanted to just take the fucking ball and just like,
That's because you're a self-admitted chucker. That's the point. No. This commitment to playing the right way, come hell or high water, is a great quality, and I hope he never loses it. And in the very few moments that he has lost it for a minute, I've always felt myself getting sick, because I don't want him to lose it. Because this commitment to playing the right way is what will make him a winner, regardless of which team he plays on, regardless of which iteration of the Raptors decide to bring out next year. This commitment to doing the right thing, regardless of how bad it looks, take the right shots. If it's a 3 and you're not comfortable taking the 3, then pass it. But if you're comfortable taking it, it's the right shot and it's in rhythm, take it. But don't take it because someone hit a 3 on you and now you want to get one up on him. That's ego. That has nothing to do with basketball. Pau Gasol had a quote today. He said team basketball is dead. I couldn't agree more. You know why it's dead? Because we keep rewarding offense. We hype guys who score. Why? Fantasy sports, probably part of it. Betting highlight apps, reels. parlay, highlight reels. Yeah. If you're only going to reward guys who score 25 points per game, well, don't expect guys to defend, set picks, and rebound and move the ball. And, you're not measuring hockey assists. Don't expect guys to try to get hockey assists. We're not measuring all the stuff that makes a basketball team great. It's difficult for me to quantify how great a player Dennis Rodman was by just looking at blocks and steals and rebounds. Like he did so much more.
You'd have to watch. You do have
to watch.
Yeah, 100%. If you don't watch Dennis Rodman, you don't know how good he is.
And there have been times in the fourth quarter, during some of Scotty's big runs, individual runs, where Fred has set picks for him. Fred has done stuff off the ball to get him open. And in those moments, Scotty has thrived. But when Fred has refused, Scotty has not refused back. When Fred has refused to find him when he's wide open for a post up because, Fred's already made up his mind 20 seconds ago that this is, the shot that's going to put me over 30. He betrays the game in that sense. He betrays the game all the time.
As like like Scotty's loyal to the game. Like Fred VanVleet is the complete opposite. And let me tell you something about you saying this right now. There's this Sportsnet interview with Fred VanVleet that like came out maybe 3 months ago, 2 months ago. I don't know, something like that. And the premise of the question was young guys texting or something like that. And
Yep.
Fred VanVleet's just dogging on his young teammates. And like when you're saying cover for me and I'll cover for you, you know, in this like weird ambiguous way, I was like sensing this subtle condescending nature that Fred VanVleet has. And it's really represented in this interview by him just like really kind of bashing on the young guys not messaging him back in the group chat. And
what's coming this year?
when
No,
that
I'm just worried about my
Look at this.
playing time going down. I don't know. Like, they went and got all these 6'9" guys. It don't make sense to have me at point
Have you
guard
watched
no
this
more.
before?
So
I don't even know where you
no,
sit.
no.
You haven't seen this?
No.
Okay. This is him last year.
humans don't like to act like nuance exists.
If we take a couple pull-up transition threes or a step back or, a couple quick shots, like I'm not going to come down the next possession and dribble the ball and shoot a contested two. So like,
trying to not focus on just dribbling the ball for 23 seconds. And, I've been trying to let the offense work, and it doesn't always work.
and if I'm the one that's got to sacrifice a little bit, which I've been doing a lot this year, I think the guys that we're plugging in have no choice but to be open-minded or they wouldn't be playing.
Pow.
I'm a stickler. I'm a jerk. I'm that old angry man.
With some inexperience, and we got a lot of guys that aren't familiar with playing in this arena. So
trying to get
The younger guys
who haven't played as much to understand the value of each possession. And
Oh, no, I don't care about that. I couldn't believe I had 8 turnovers.
still 2-1. 2-1 assist turnover
to
ratio.
protect your home court is something that just feels so normal and natural, but until it's not, you know what I mean? Until you have a lot of guys who don't really understand what that means.
Scotty and Delano, the guys that just did it for the.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. I didn't have that luxury. So like it was, be ready to play or don't play, because we have a lot of free opportunity and a lot of guys playing that haven't really earned it. And not in a bad way, but just like, we have a lot of young guys that are playing that, on a contender or whatever the case may be, they might not necessarily be getting the same freedom. So again, offensively, it's like, whatever, right? We'll figure it out.
I don't talk basketball with too many people. Like, I'm pretty, what do they call it? I'm a basketball elitist. No. I love you guys to death, and you are very intelligent. But, yeah, it's levels, man.
And I stopped valuing non-basketball people's opinion a long time
I
ago.
would guess that it would be more like an IQ thing.
Be a little rough around the edges from my viewpoint. You guys probably won't notice it. Sharing the ball handling responsibilities. Scotty's had the ball a lot, for better or for worse at times. But
You say Scotty's got the ball a lot, for better or for worse.
yep.
Precious gets it, rips and goes, for better or for worse.
Yep.
There's no babies allowed, so you got to kind of like get up to speed, or you're going to keep getting stepped on.
I
So
think that the only thing we don't do now, because we have phones every day, is we don't give time.
I've certainly never thought about shooting 20 shots in a game or something like that. I got to the
Cap,
NBA and they
cap,
told me that's
cap.
what I had to do. So here we
Cap,
are.
cap.
Now people don't think I'm a point guard anymore. It's great. I think it's just a reminder for the idiots on Twitter who have got to, beat them up for the last 2 years.
Now I'm seeing that my actions have reactions and consequences.
Man, when he said that, we're trying to get younger guys to understand meaningful basketball. Do you know how that is so fucking condescending?
It is condescending. And I say this as, a person who's been the youngest player on a team before. I've had vets who were like really great, and I know what good vets are like. I've talked to players who have been vets in the NBA. I've talked to players who had vets in the NBA. I know what good vets do for a team. Good vets are like guys like Steven Adams. I realize the Memphis Grizzlies are a horror show right now, but he's a good vet. Brook Lopez is a good vet. Robin's a good vet. Like there's so many good vets. Charles Oakley was a good vet. Like these guys, their purpose is to make you better. Like their genuine purpose, they go about it different ways. Like sometimes they'll yell at you if you need to be yelled at. They'll yell at you. Sometimes they'll put a arm around you. But it's not about them. It's always going to be about you and paying it back, paying it forward. Paying it forward is so important. Now, Fred VanVleet was blessed. He came into the league with the greatest vets ever. Serge Ibaka was an amazing vet. Kyle Lowry was an amazing vet. DeMar DeRozan was an amazing vet. This guy had nothing but amazing vets. He and Pascal grew largely. Now, you can always credit, somebody for their own development. Yeah, that's a part of it. They definitely had to work for it. But you look, what player came into this team during the time that those guys were around that they didn't develop? You could look at Jakob Poeltl, he developed. DeLon Wright, he developed. Norm Powell, he developed.
They all got love. They all got love.
OG Anunoby, he was on a completely different trajectory. Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, they all developed. Everyone, Chris Boucher, he developed. But you look the last 3 years, all the development has stopped. All of it. So this is not a conspiracy theory. And, some people want to say, oh, you're trying to alienate the fan base. No, I'm trying to wake the fan base up. Y'all need to wake up.
But no. If you go on Raptors Reddit, I am fighting every day on Raptors Reddit, okay? Every time I have, me and you, we really share the same sentiment on Fred. Like, we really do. Every time I try to bring this up, that the NBA that Fred VanVleet and Pascal came into, there's even Pascal on JJ Redick's podcast saying, talking about how DeMar and Kyle would advocate for him to bring the ball up the floor, and how that was kind of they got KC to believe in Pascal a little bit. I know.
Yeah, I mean, like, imagine if you were Precious Achiuwa right now, you collected back-to-back DMP CDs basically, right? Imagine what message you need right now from your vet. Do you need I had to earn my time, so you're going to earn your time. That's condescending and that's mean, and it's mean-spirited and it's not nice. And, or do you need a genuine, look, I think intention is everything. I think intention is 80% of action. And sometimes you say the wrong thing, but you say it with the right intention and people still get it. They get the love. The real love comes from a Kyle Lowry saying, Kem's had a tough go in Orlando. I'm going to get him paid. That's real love. He didn't get anything from that. I hope Kem, got him a watch or something because the contract he got. But all honesty, like, Kyle just did it out of the goodness of his heart. He just wanted to, help a role player get his first really big contract. And that contract, if you talk to players who've played, 5-6 year type careers, that contract is basically carrying you until retirement.
Yeah, man.
That's basically it, right? Kem Birch is never going to get $18 million again. It's not shade on Kem Birch. It's just me being honest.
Maybe another minimum if he's lucky.
Maybe. He might be out of the league next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So that contract that Kyle Lowry selflessly said, I'm going to get Kem paid, that basically has taken care of Kem's life in a very real way. I mean, being an NBA athlete is not cheap. I mean, you go out, you got bills, you got a life, you got to pay for bills for other people, you got tickets you got to buy. The money goes fast. It takes a very, disciplined mind to be able to do that. But Kem never had a big contract. $6 million was his first big contract. Kyle got him paid. Kyle gets nothing out of that. Right now, I'm watching Fred VanVleet use Jakob Poeltl to get himself paid.
Oh my God, can we talk about that? He needs the fattest screens to get separations.
Yes, he does.
And do you think he was talking to Masai to get, I don't know if this is true. This is just speculation by me, but do you think Fred VanVleet was asking for a screener?
Yes, he was. And also, Black Clover Greatness, you are one, I'm trying to understand if you just being super sarcastic today. I've never had an issue with you before, but you are just, chat, let me know. Do you want me to put this guy on a timeout or something? I don't like putting people on timeouts, but it's every time I look at the comments, it's something new from you that just does not make sense. So just, let me know, yes or no. You say, if I see 10 yeses, I'm doing it. Because some of these comments are just insane.
Lorenzo Brown, I get what he's trying to do there. He's just trying to undermine you. So
no, I don't care about undermine me. You can disagree with me, whatever you want. But some of this stuff is look at LeBron. He's still developing. No, he's
Okay,
not.
okay, yeah. Get out of here.
Jody Meeks and Jeremy Lin didn't develop either. I mean, that's just insanity. Like, what are you talking about?
He's
Jeremy
trolling.
Lin
He's
shouldn't-
trolling. He's trolling.
Like, what is going on here, bro? Did I potentially... Oh, we're getting a yes? Okay. Yeah. All right. You gone. We'll put you in a timeout. Let's say, I don't know. I don't know how long timeouts last. I never put anyone on a timeout before, but yeah.
5 minutes. That's fair.
Wait, did I just put myself in a timeout? Okay, my bad. Oh my God. Okay, that was good. Okay, he's blocked for 5 minutes. All right. So Black Clover greatness. Go meditate for 5 minutes. Go think about your life. Go think about, existentialism. Go read, some Lao Tzu, some Wu Wei shit. Come back with a renewed perspective and hopefully stop trolling the chat because it's fucking annoying as hell, man. All right. Yeah. So anyways, like I'm just saying, like, yes, he is absolutely using him, and to Jakob's bad, like, there's a lot of players. DeMarcus Cousins could set meaty ass screens, man. Enes Kanter right now. I mean, none of those guys have Jakob's passing or necessarily. Well, honestly, DeMarcus Cousins is a hell of a passer, underrated, but none of them have his necessary like other skills that keep Jakob on the court. Jakob is not on the court exclusively to set picks for Fred VanVleet, but is not lost on me that as an undersized guard who's had burst issues, finishing issues, and tons of other issues, that Jakob Poeltl, and I'm so glad that Jack Armstrong called it out, but he didn't call it out as like a bad thing. He called it out as a good thing. He said no one has done it, like no one has benefited more from Jakob Poeltl's arrival than Fred VanVleet. And that's true. But that's also because no one has had the chance to benefit from Jakob Poeltl's arrival more than Fred VanVleet. Because, when Scotty has the ball, how easily could he call for a Jakob screen?
Right? Oh man, that's something I kind of want. Another thing, like, I know I'm saying Scotty take the ball and gun, but sometimes I just want to see Scotty in the position where Fred is. So I want to see Scotty pick and roll with Jakob. I want to see like OG Scotty pick and roll sometime. That's pretty rare.
Yeah, Adi Nuff says Scotty has benefited a little bit. I agree, absolutely, and that's the point. Jakob is a great teammate. Like, he does everything that you want a great teammate to do. He's selfless. He has no ego. If you miss him, he doesn't hold his hands up. He is the consummate professional, and he learned to play basketball the right way. And I tell you, as someone who's watched Jakob Poeltl for a very, very long time as well, this is not something that he learned as a Raptor. He learned this in youth. He was like this way in college. He was like this way in high school. He was like this way for the Raptors, even when, the Raptors had questionable shot selection. He never stopped doing the right thing. In a lot of ways, Jakob and Scotty have a lot in common, and I'm not surprised that they get along as well as they do. But Fred using, Scotty as a screener, OG as a screener, and all these guys as a screener to gun for his shot, you can make an argument that it's efficient, right? When he's shooting threes,
I'm pretty sure that's pretty efficient though. Scotty Jakob pick and roll.
I'm gonna try to. I feel like some people may be struggling to understand this. I'm sure you're not, but I want to put it like this, right? I want you to imagine that you go on a camping trip, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
You go on a camping trip, and there's this dude, who swears he's the guide. Right, he knows everything, but you're like, no, we're gonna hire like a real guide, right? And so when you get there, you're like, all right, the guide is gone, like he's not here, and it turns out that this dude called the guide before and canceled. So he kind of went behind your back and just canceled the guide because he really wanted to be the guide. And he's like, okay, well, the guide canceled. Now can I be the guide? And they're like, you know what? Actually, we're good. We're just gonna get maps. Right. And so you buy maps, right? And you're like, all right, we're going to guide ourselves. And then, you go to the washroom and suddenly all your maps are gone. And you're like, oh, motherfucker, where are the maps? And you go to the store and they're sold out of maps. And you're like, oh my God, no one knows where to be. And this guy that wanted to be the guide all along, he's like, can I be the guide? And they're like, I guess it's better you guide us than we guide ourselves because we don't know where the fuck we're going. And so this guy who fired the guide, stole your maps, and bought out all the maps that you would have bought to replace the maps that you lost, This guy's now your guide. That's basically Fred VanVleet running point for this team right now. He has undercut anyone who could have replaced him, undercut their development, in my opinion. Now, I don't know if Malachi Flynn would ever admit to this, and maybe you'll have to wait for some of these players to go on to other teams for them to voice their frustrations, because now everyone's got a podcast, everyone can talk about it. Now everyone can be like, my time with the Raptors, it was terrible. This guy, he never talked to me once. I mean, we didn't hear that Kyle and DeMar didn't talk for the first season. We didn't hear that until like 5 years later. We didn't hear that DeMar demanded a trade because Kyle was about to be traded until 4 years later. So we hear about these things afterwards, not before. Okay? Everyone's trying to get paid. I get that. Basketball is a entrepreneurship for some. It's a sport for others. It's a sport. It's the entrepreneurship of sports for someone else. I get that. But I'm trying to say that, like, this guy has wanted this role for himself because it is the best thing for his numbers, not because it's the best thing for his team. And they basically said, prove that it's the best thing for this team. And so he basically stole all your fucking maps.
But he already got 85 million, man. And that's what's killing me. You got paid, Fred. You got your money.
That's not what he has his sights set on, man. After taxes, 85 million, after taking care of your family, after donating this and donating that, and having 3 kids and all this shit. Yo, he's got his sights set on like billion. He wants to be a billionaire at some point in his life. You have no idea. The relentless ambition of this guy, it's admirable. If it wasn't so toxic, it'd actually be admirable, And I mean, in a weird way, it is admirable. If I was a huge Fred VanVleet stan or something, or if I was like, if I overinvested in my own height limitations and I was like going to bet on every single person and root for every single person who was my height in the NBA, maybe I would just be looking at this like, my God. Like, can you imagine?
Okay. Do you think people
you have a teammate who's a rookie of the year, 4th overall pick. You have a teammate like OG Anunoby, who's probably the hottest commodity in the NBA at the trade deadline. You have a teammate who is a 2-time All-NBA guy, and you manage to usurp all of them as the team's primary facilitator and first option. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
like, how did he do it? Master manipulation, man. Manipulated the media, manipulated his teammates, manipulated everything. That's
the thing, though. I used to watch William Lou religiously before this season. Like, that was my go-to guy when I wanted Raptors information. But some of the things he's saying is starting to scare me. And it's not just him. It's not just him. It's other people.
I don't listen to him. What did he say?
Okay, I'll tell you.
And also, I'm gonna put this out there. We made a decision, a sort of spontaneous 5 a.m. decision this morning to stop talking about other content creators.
Oh, my bad.
Technically, Will Lou counts as a content creator. So if you are about to trash Will Lou, please don't do it.
Well, if you're about to trash everybody, I'm about to trash everybody. It's kind of like a wide narrative. Like, let me land, and you'll see.
Sure.
So there's this narrative that they say that's repeated. If we're gonna let Fred go, what better can we get? And I'm like, sometimes, like, what is it?
Addition by subtraction.
By subtraction, yeah. I'm just like, there is more to be had with him off the team, and them pushing that narrative is so dangerous. And I don't know if that's because I know William Lou. I used to listen to this guy. I know. Okay, I'm really not bashing him. Before this year, I used to genuinely agree a lot with William Lou. Then he had this little mishap with Chris Boucher on Twitter. And then like everybody got on him, and he switched up because he never speaks like he used to speak. And I don't think that's genuinely something he believes in, because if me and you can see Fred VanVleet like this, Masai can see Fred VanVleet like that. I don't think Masai is stupid by any means. He's a very smart GM. And the fact that a guy I agreed with for years, and now he's pushing that narrative, and you're saying master manipulator, I actually believe you. I straight up believe you on Fred VanVleet is doing something with his camp that's elite. But I don't know how he's done it.
Yo, here's the thing though. Like, it's tough. It's tough when you have a very unpopular take. You have to weather the storm. All right. Now, I gotta be 100%. We have lost 60 subscribers over the last month. We've also gained. Like, we've lost more than we've gained. Basically, we gained like 180 subscribers, and then we lost like 240. So the net is like 60. Made a really big deal about passing 5,000 subs.
Yeah.
Every time I make a video, we lose 5 more subscribers. It's literally like clockwork at this point. because I don't really have anything overly positive to say. And even when I'm trying to be positive, it's comes out as a little bit negative, and it's just because I know where this is going. I feel it in my bones. It's making me very sad. And it is because I am a Raptor fan and rooting for the long-term success of this team that I do not want to see OG Anunoby aggressively demand a trade out of this team because he's sick and tired of Nick Nurse and Fred VanVleet. And I don't want to prioritize Fred VanVleet over the entire team. I don't want to see Jeff Doughton and Malachi Flynn and Delano Banton waste away as prospects. I don't want to see, Precious Achua, lose his NBA career because,
Yeah, that
he has
one's
bad
hurting me,
leadership.
man.
All of these things, these are all prospects that we should all care about. If you're a Raptor fan, that means being a fan of 17 guys. That also means being a fan of a lot of coaches, trainers, scouts, a GM, a president. That means being a fan of so much. It's more than just one guy or two guys. And some people accuse me, of, oh, it's all Scotty for him. No, it's not. There's a lot of players on this team that I really like and really believe in, and they are genuinely, to my eye test, doing the right thing and playing the right way. And I'm reminded that when I started out this channel, people were like, man, this guy, he really tells it like it is. And there was this one comment, and I swear I pinned it, but I can't find it now. And it's like, I thought I pinned it. And he said, and I can't remember who said it. And he said, everyone starts out this way until they sell out. Everyone sells out. You'll be no different. You'll sell out. And I remember I wrote a comment back saying, like, there is no part of me that can ever sell out. But I got to tell you, man, it's hard. It's hard, yo. When people are trolling you, trashing you, writing you nasty emails, making videos about you all the time, saying like you're a hater and they're this and that, you're that. Nobody wants that. Nobody. I don't care how much you invite the smoke. Nobody wants to be called out 24/7. It's like it's nuts. Nobody wants to be branded a hater. Nobody.
Were
wants
these
to
guys around for the DeMar era?
I don't know.
Like DeMar got killed, murdered nightly on Twitter, and Fred VanVleet gets praised regardless. That's what's mind-boggling.
What the thing is that Fred VanVleet has created probably the most, in my opinion, one of the most negative environments in Raptor fandom history. Since maybe like Mike James, like it's bad. He basically has created, and I talked about this with Blake, where I don't remember ever throwing young guys under the bench. It's always the bench's fault, not enough help, whatever. I don't remember this narrative in Raptorland ever until Fred VanVleet started being the talking piece for the Raptors. I really hope Masai Ujiri, has stumbled across a Pensari basketball video. I hope that the YouTube algorithm puts Pensari basketball videos literally on his page to the point where he has to literally ignore this channel. I hope that he knows. I genuinely believe he does. I think you're right. He's a very smart person. Bobby's a really smart person. And if they don't know, go ask Scotty. Go ask some of his younger teammates. Go ask them how they feel. And don't ask a pointed question like, oh, do you want Fred VanVleet off this team? But rather ask more of a question of how has leadership, what would you improve? How do you feel about the ball movement on this team? How do you feel about the leadership on this team? What's, one good thing that a leader on this team did for you when you were having a really rough week? Because all of these things are important. Now, I got to be honest, like it's taken me a very long time to learn how to be a leader. It took a very long time because leadership is honestly one of the hardest skill sets to develop. And some people have it, some people don't. And I'm not saying you can't develop it, but it takes work. And one of the things that I learned about being a leader is you have to learn how to empathize, and you have to learn how to put other people above yourself, and you have to learn how to be honest without being cruel, and know like how to be equal parts mother and father, because I think leadership involves both. I've been a director, which is, I guess, a leader of a film set, 13, 14 times. I've been a producer. I've been, the founder of a company several times. All of these, I've been a boss, I've founded 3-4 companies. I've founded a cleaning company, a dog walking company. Like all these things required me to be a leader in a sense, which means I had to make decisions on whether or not someone's going to get fired for making a mistake. I had to make a decision on how hard to come down on someone for, something that they're doing wrong. And every time I did it, I learned something new about myself, and I learned something new about how to deal with that person. And so much of leadership comes down to adjusting your style based on who you're talking to and learning how to get the best out of people. And I think that the best leaders that I've ever been around, the people that have led me the best, they knew how to meet me at my level. They knew when I needed a bit of a, tough talk, and they knew when I needed like a shoulder to lean on for a minute, and to sort of breathe. And I've never ever sensed that from Fred, because I've been around a lot of leaders in my life. I've never heard any of them throw their younger teammates under the bus the way he does. I've never heard any of them, say, I'm the best. I'm one of the two best players on this team. The two best players play this way. Kyle didn't do that. When I'm reminded of Kyle Lowry, there's so many moments to stick out of Kyle in his leadership, but the one moment that I always go back to is that big shot that OG hit against Boston in the bubble.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite shots. Yeah.
And you remember his press conference after?
No,
everyone was talking about how he got that pass over Taco Fall, and all he could say was give OG his flowers. Just give OG his flowers. He's the one who hit the shot. Wasn't an easy shot, 0.5. He made it all about OG. And to the point that because he refused to egg on the question, he almost refused to answer how he made the pass, because it is a fucking crazy pass. Taco Fall, 7'7". Its wingspan is over 8 feet. 8 foot wingspan. You're a 6 foot guard, and you got that pass over perfect.
That's gnarly. That's gnarly. Yeah.
You want the honest truth? His pass was more impressive than OG's shot.
Well,
or at least they were equally impressive.
No, I get what you're saying though. Like you're not expecting, like, the shot is more possible. That pass is kind of insanity.
It's like, honestly, I can't think of another player who's that height who could have made that pass on target the way he did. And Kyle is such a gifted passer, and he didn't make it about himself, to the point where now we don't remember that moment as Kyle's pass. We remember it as OG's shot.
Yep.
And I will always remind people that actually it took 2 to tango on that night. And I will never forget how much I admired Kyle Lowry in that moment for giving OG his flowers and for saying that was about OG, and how encouraging, and how, I think about it from OG's perspective. You're a 22, 23-year-old in the NBA at that time, just trying to find your way. And there's someone that you admire, like Kyle Lowry, your leader. And he says, give him his flowers. How good do you feel coming into that next game? Probably feel like $1 million, right?
And you feel comfortable as
and
well.
How do you feel when you have a leader, basically trying to act like a coach in the PR department, and saying, when your two best players play like that, it's on me. The younger guys this, younger guys that, funky lineups this, we need some consistency from the bench. We're not going to get it from this bench, whatever. We can't do it by ourselves. The other guys have to step up. They have to look in the mirror. Like, my God, like the number of quotes that I could fire off from Fred VanVleet. My God, that video that I showed you is honestly a year old. It's a year old at this point. He's added like 1,000 clips to that from that point on. And honestly, if I wanted to make a full-length feature film and put it in the TIFF Bell Lightbox and put it in Cineplex of just Fred VanVleet, just taking condescending shot after condescending shot. And that's what he says in public. What does he say in private? That's what I would like to know. I'd like to be a fly on the wall.
I want to know what these young guys really think about Fred. But you're right. That's not going to come out for like 5-6 years.
Absolutely. And, like to those fans today who look at the box score and say, wow, Fred VanVleet had a great game. And you know what? You would be right. You would be right. Fred VanVleet did have a great game. My question is, who didn't have a great game for him to have his great game? Because there were many guys who could have had great games tonight. There's sometimes when I watch Fred VanVleet play and I'm like, I just squint my eyes a little bit and I'm like, if Jeff Doughton was out there, this would still work. If Jeff Doughton played
it would. You know it would.
Exactly. If you really...
Like, that's you appeasing the people, like the Fred lovers. You saying, if I squint my eyes. No, man. Like, if Jeff Doughton was out there, it's a comparable offense. That's the thing. He doesn't.
It totally is, and it just runs through somebody different. It becomes way more egalitarian, way more unpredictable, right? Because Fred VanVleet, Jakob Poeltl, 5-1 pick and roll is not. It's like the league knows how to stop this. I don't know if you figured this out yet, but like you go into a play-in series where like another team has like 3-4 days to prepare for you, and they're like really, really, really going to try to stop this. You're going to see in the first quarter they're going to try to run this play 4 times. It's going to get stopped every single time as Jakob picks up charge after charge after charge. It's not that complicated to stop.
What are you putting your money on? Bulls, Raps playing one game right now.
Raptors.
Okay, who are you putting your money on? Atlanta. Raptors.
Atlanta.
Really? Okay, I might lean Raptors there. I mean, just a little bit, but okay. Now, who are you putting on for the Heat? Heat Raps.
Honestly, it's hard. It's hard to say Heat after what the hell they just did tonight, but I'll go Heat.
So So
I
you
trust
go.
Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry more than I trust Fred VanVleet. And that's just it. That's where I'm at with
Yeah,
them.
it's really
Yeah.
sad. Okay, I got work in the morning. I get out of here. Before I go, I just like what it. You think he's on the like just where your head's at right now today? Not you can change your mind later, but you think he's on the roster next year, or you just can't tell?
I can't tell, but man, I
Okay.
hope not. I really
Yeah.
hope not. I really hope not, because you know what? Like, I'm not even. Yeah, I feel so alone. I feel so
Uh,
alone. Like I'm screaming into like
but like late, like when we hit, like maybe it's gonna be October 2025. Maybe it's gonna be. I think 2025 the latest, to be honest. Where Fred VanVleet's gonna be on another roster. He's gonna be coming off the bench. He's gonna be getting killed on defense, and we're gonna be vindicated.
he's already getting killed on defense. Every single time tonight when Jordan McLaughlin went past him, he needed help every single time. And a number of blow-bys that this guy gives up on a nightly basis is absolutely mind-boggling. I have not seen anything. This is like Jose Calderon level point of attack defense. Yeah, he makes up for it with deflections, and he has heavy hands, and he is good at a lot of other things in terms of rotations and closing gaps. But when a guy one-on-one gets him and isolates him, oh my God, if there's
Yeah.
even a little bit of a help from a screen, he's lost. He's gone.
Yeah.
And he cannot rotate on the other guy because he's too small, and he cannot contest at the rim. And I'm telling you, an opposing coach that actually knows what the fuck they're doing is going to spam this. I can tell, because I tell you right now, if I was coaching against this team, I would absolutely kill him. I
Okay,
would
and
destroy
so
him.
you think in postseason setting, there's going to be a game plan for Fred, and it's going to be
100%, man.
okay,
You know how many scouts are watching NBA games all the time? There are at least 10 scouts who watch tonight's game in preparation for next week's game against the Raptors. And there are already, based on the fact that, the play-in teams are becoming quite obvious now, and the stakes of a single game play-in, you don't think Eric Spoelstra knows that? And I mean, like, of any point guard in the league that I would not want, and I know that he's fallen off a cliff and that he's so much worse. But in a 1-game series, in a 7-game series, I say Fred VanVleet has a bit of an edge over Kyle Lowry. But in a one game, just one game, he doesn't have to sustain it. Just one game. Fred VanVleet knows Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry knows Fred VanVleet inside out.
If you were to swap Ricky Rubio and Fred VanVleet, and probably Ricky Rubio plays less minutes, but are we a better off team?
It's
The addition,
close.
like just like something.
It's close, man. But
First,
Ricky Rubio how's Ricky Rubio's defense this year?
pretty dog shit.
Right. So no, I mean, look, like with the number of point of attack, like I don't know. I don't think so. Like, look, Fred VanVleet's still a good player. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm saying he's playing badly. This is a big difference. Like when people like hear me talk about him, they think I'm talking about like fucking Malachi Flynn, and I'm not. I'm not talking about a player who's on the fringes of being out of the league. I'm just talking about a guy who's like easily like a third, fourth option on a half decent team, who's playing like the best option or the second option on a bad team. And I'm just saying this team doesn't have to be bad. I'm saying this team is worse because he wants to play that way. And every single time he puts up a game like this against, a really tired opponent that has no choice but to like, I mean, yeah, you can give him his flowers. He finished well in the paint. He got some good shots to go. He hit his shots early, but he's the only person who was in rhythm because he made sure that the offense ran through him. And I'm just saying, you have a gifted passer like Scotty Barnes and you're running the offense through Fred VanVleet, you're fucking up. Like, you are wasting time. It's inexcusable. It should not be happening. And all this shit about, oh, we got to get this young team, to the play-in or the playoffs for the experience. If that is in fact the case, and you decide to just run Jakob Fred pick and roll for the entire game, then what is Scotty getting experience for? What is Precious getting? What is this experience that you're building with? And do you think Fred VanVleet, who's been to the finals, needs more playoff experience? No. So, my thing is, I just want people to be about what they're about. I want people to be straight shooters, and I want people to keep it a buck, So for me, it's like, you're going to say this is about Fred and Pascal getting paid, fine. Then tell me that that's what I'm signed up for, so I can just click it off and I don't have to watch this team anymore. But if you're telling me this is about oh, we got to get Scotty reps and we got to get Scotty developed and we got to give OG a chance to morph into what he's supposed to be. Well, then play like it. Don't say one thing and do one thing, because that's just confusing. Yeah. All right. Cheers,
man.
man.
Keep it easy. Don't let them get to you, bro.
I'm trying. All right. Peace, man.
Peace, bro.
All right. See ya. Alrighty. So, it's complicated, but I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to stick to speaking on what I think is actually happening. I got to be honest, like by the second half, I wasn't as upset as I was in the first. And most of the conversation that you just heard was really just my thoughts on the first half and what has happened far too often this season. Again, I think the grander point makes sense, right? If you want to look at it from the perspective of what has really happened to the youth, I want you to look, like, honestly, to those of you out there with, analytics subscriptions to either your Patreon subscriber to Thinking Basketball or whatever, just go and look year over year, or even if you want a free way to look at this, go to Dunks and Threes or go to 538 or go to Basketball Reference, anything you use for analytics, and just honestly do some research on yourself and let me know in the next chat what you find. Go look at Malachi Flynn. Go look at Precious Achiuwa, Delano Banton. Just go look at these guys. Go look at Scotty Barnes. Go look at OG Anunoby. And this is your young core. That's the whole benefit of this. Nobody walked into this season saying, oh, we're nice because we got Fred and Pascal. No one did that. No, they said, oh, we're nice because we got Fred and Pascal, and Gary, Scotty, and OG could take a next step. And Christian Koloko could be a surprise, and Precious Achiuwa could take a next step. No, that was a big part of it. Well, now, Gary Trent Jr. is on the bench, and that's fine, because you got Jakob Poeltl, and I think it balances out. And Gary's been good. But OG Anunoby getting 9 shots, Scotty getting 10 shots, it's not enough for me. Offense is just running through Fred. That's not cool for me. I don't think he's gifted enough to carry this type of load long term against good teams and without breaking down. But obviously he's trying to get paid. His agent's in his ear telling him, these are the numbers you need to hit. These are the marks you need to hit. And you're going to take care of your family for the rest of your life. And this dummy-ass organization has decided to call it leadership. That's not leadership. That's selfishness. In my opinion, that's selfishness. And that's not cool. And if Masai doesn't know that that's what he's doing, I'm disappointed. And if he does know that this is what he's doing and he's allowing it, I'm also disappointed. Because, look, early years for NBA players are very important. Those first 3-4 years. You consider it like having a child. Those first 7 years, you don't get them back. It's not like you can just tell your child to, fuck off for 7 years when you have a kid. We're planning on having a kid soon, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Those first 6-7 years are very important in terms of establishing the baseline, in terms of establishing ideas, in terms of establishing traumas, potentially, habits, self-esteem, all of these things. How you treat your young players. This is a pipeline, man. The Raptors are a pipeline team. Go talk to any scout in the NBA. What do they talk about? Do they talk about Fred and Pascal being so great? No. They talk about the Raptors being so great at developing. Where is the development? That's what I want to know. Where the fuck is the development? And if you are going to sit there with your fucking straight ass face and tell me that the development is out the door because Masai Ujiri forgot how to scout, I yell cap. Cap on that. That's bullshit. And if you're going to tell me that it's just happenstance, just luck, I say it's too large a sample size for it to just be luck. I call leadership. I think it's leadership. I think that there is a certain type of personality. Thank you so much, by the way, Kuato from Mars, on the Super Chat sticker. I appreciate it. I think there's a certain type of personality that leads to nurturing and growth. You know how many teachers I had in my life? Like 30, 40. You know how many of them significantly impacted growth for me? 2. And I remember them. Pamela and Carolyn Brown. Those are the 2 people. Pamela Johnson, Carolyn Brown. I'll never forget them because they were leaders in my life when I desperately needed leadership. And all young men, we forget Precious Achiuwa is a young man. How mature are you when you're 22, 23 years old? Not very. I mean, these guys look big and they look tall and they make millions of dollars, but they're still kids. They're still kids and they need guidance and leadership and support and tough talking to, and they need all that. And they're not getting it. I'm telling you, man, they're not getting it. If they're not developing, there's a reason for that. There are teams in this league where guys just don't develop. And I hope that when this shit is over, when Fred VanVleet gets his money and he could just fuck off, either go somewhere else or, he gets his money, he stays here, but then he just stops playing this way, that we can reestablish and regain some of this lost potential and this lost time that you are losing. Because I'll tell you right now, I would be 1,000 times happier, and I do mean 1,000 times happier, rooting for a team that was winning a little bit less, but developing a little bit more. And developing and losing do not have to be mutually exclusive. Okay? They don't. You don't have to lose just because you're playing Delano Banton or Malachi Flynn or Precious Achiuwa. You don't. I proved it last year. Precious Achiuwa played a major part on a better team last year. He played major minutes in a playoff series against Philadelphia 76ers, and he was not bad. So what has happened to Precious Achiuwa that he could play major minutes on a playoff team last year that won 48 wins, and he can't play on this team? What happened? Oh, Jakob's so much better, right? Yeah, Jakob is a better player. He's also 4 years older. He's also a free agent. Keep shit in perspective. Shitting on who's been here, shitting on the development. These guys don't forget this. You will lose these guys. You will lose players with upside and potential because they will not forget this. I'm telling you, they will not forget this. You end up losing Scotty Barnes in free agency in 3-4 years because of this shit. That would really piss me off a lot. You end up losing OG Anunoby to a trade demand. You were going to feel his value. If he wasn't on this team, oh my God. Oh my God. You don't want to know where this defense would be without him. So I'm choosing the field. You want to give me Fred VanVleet or the field? I choose the field. You want to give me Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, or the field? I choose the field. I choose to side with the guys who are getting shafted here. And I do think they're getting shafted. Because at the end of the day, they're going to enter free agency this summer with DMPCD, 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 2 points per game. It's not paying it forward. This is not what Fred did. This is not what Kyle did for Pascal. This is not what Kyle did for Fred. This is not what DeMar did for Norm. This is not what Serge did for Pascal. This is not that. This is not paying that forward. No. This is something completely different, in my opinion. Look, man, there were a lot of rumors earlier in the season that there was a huge divide in the Raptors locker room, that there were certain guys who were not messing with other guys, or guys who were not talking to each other. It didn't really go further than that. But yeah, I've talked to a few people who were in the Raptors locker room, and I know exactly who was on which side of the locker room and who was on which side of the locker room. And I've heard a lot of things, but I'm not going to talk about it right now, because at the end of the day, what I'm rooting for, despite what you might think and what some people might think, is for the Raptors to come together and make the most of the situation, okay? And I'm not trying to add fuel to the fire. What I am trying to say, however, is that Fred VanVleet needs to think about something other than himself right now. And doing this against the Minnesota Timberwolves, fine. Look, we've been through this with you before, Fred. Like, we saw you, sort of beat the crap out of like really, really good, bad teams earlier last year, and then sort of fall apart, when the team needed you more. If Fred VanVleet wants to sort of slowly, build up his role on the offensive end, I just want to see him do it in a way that is not sort of shafting other guys. You know what I mean? Now I'm watching Scotty just kind of go up and down the court, OG stand open in the corner. Even my girlfriend, who's barely like a basketball observer, she's just like, do you know OG was open like 2 times in a row? And I'm like, yeah, I know. He's wide open. And, if Fred VanVleet shoots 10 for 18 every single night, he thinks that he has the right to shoot 10 for 18. But OG shot 6 for 9. Do the math. 6 for 9 is better than 10 for 18. 6 for 9 turns into 12 for 18 if you allow it to double. But you can only say, well, Fred VanVleet had a better game. Why? who couldn't have scored on their matchup tonight? It was like, I'm looking across at the Minnesota Timberwolves and I'm like, which one of these guys right now that I'm watching on the court could start on every single team in the league? Rudy Gobert, maybe. But like everybody else, like Mike Conley, okay. But like where's the talent here? You're not playing a full roster. You're not playing a very good team when they are a full roster. So you're beating up on a team, you're getting your numbers, you're padding your stats, and look, at the end of the day, Fred VanVleet has always maintained this sort of narrative that it's about winning for him. It's not about the stats and whatever. And then he goes on and proceeds to talk about the stats. Made a video about that, the low light film, you know. Saying, wow, the Jazz beat the Celtics. Yes, the Celtics are a team that is falling apart right now. The Nuggets are a team that is falling apart right now. And I think in both cases, you can say this is a microcosm of what's happening with the Raptors. That even the Celtics that have all the talent in the world, Marcus Smart, a former Defensive Player of the Year, Al Horford, an incredible veteran and a very experienced player who's switchable and great, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who have all the talent in the world, that even that team cannot play so out of themselves. Okay, we got Lane coming on.
What's
Hey
up?
Lane, what's up?
What's up?
How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Enjoyed the game tonight. I know it sounds like you didn't and a lot of other people didn't. But just from a coach's perspective, you have some games where you need certain guys to take over, and I totally agree with you. I hope it doesn't become a trend, because that 56% shooting from the field could easily turn into 30% shooting from the field. But this was one of those nights where you needed that. I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow. I hope.
I don't think that you needed that from Fred. I think if Fred stayed on the bus today, you still win this. You didn't need Fred for this at all. I refuse to believe that. This is a team on fumes. They're coming off a back-to-back. They got their flight came in late. They're not a very good team to begin with. They're missing their two best players. What part of this equation requires Fred VanVleet to take 18 shots and control the entire offense?
The first quarter, especially to get the guys off the ground, I thought
This is just platitudes for me.
For
It's just platitudes. Look, there's one ball and 5 players. So if I decide to run every single play through Scotty Barnes for an entire game and you win, then you can make a case that you needed 100 points from Scotty Barnes because no one else scored. But number one, that's highly ineffective basketball. It does not scale. It does not translate. I always think about, is this scalable or not? I don't okay, maybe in a good way, nobody else had to really exert themselves tonight. Fred VanVleet took all the cardio out of it, and now maybe all these guys can sort of save themselves up for a real game tomorrow, which is against Milwaukee on the road.
Right. Well, that's my whole point. I want to see what happens tomorrow before I judge tonight too harshly.
Okay.
Because if this continues tomorrow, then we may have an issue.
Well, do you think that Fred VanVleet can do this against Drew Holiday?
No.
Yeah, because Jordan McLaughlin and a 35-year-old Mike Conley, who was never a great defender to begin with, are not the exact same thing, number one. And number two, obviously, finishing in the paint against Naz Reid. And, granted, Rudy Gobert, reputationally great defender. This year, not so much. It's been very bad this year. Yeah. And I think I saw it a few times tonight where I was just like, oh my God, a couple of years ago, that's a SWAT. And it's just not anymore. And guys fall off a cliff sometimes, and it's hard for our eyes to adjust. It's very difficult for people to understand how Kobe could still score 30 points per game and be on a lottery team. Yeah. He had fallen off. The efficiency had fallen off, and yeah.
Gobert also had a better supporting cast in Utah, and I'm not calling Jakob
defensively.
Royce O'Neal, and I'm forgetting the other guy's name.
Donovan Mitchell was a pylon.
No, he was wings. He had some really good defensive wings in Utah.
Bogdanovich?
Yes. Bogdanovich in his prime, not anymore. But I mean, it was easy. They knew how to funnel guys to him on this Timberwolves team. No, they don't. I mean, Kyle Anderson's a snail. It was funny reading Twitter. Every time Kyle Anderson takes a jump shot, it takes him 2 years to get the ball up in the air. But you know what?
It was weird.
Yeah. Kyle Anderson's a snail. And then Torian Prince is – I forgot he was still in the league, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So he just doesn't have the supporting cast around him. Better players make other guys shine, for sure. Fred is just Terry Rozier. I don't agree with that. I think there's a catalyst. Fred VanVleet is not an elite point guard, but he's better than an average point guard.
Sure, I'll agree with that. I think he's a starter in the league, but you are like, to me, it's like the map and analogy that I gave earlier. I'm sticking by that. Like you downgrade everybody else to elevate yourself. There are multiple ways, like you walk into a party, not that I need a fucking other analogy, but I'll give one. Like you walk into a party and everyone's feeling themselves and you make everyone else feel like shit so that you can be like feeling the best. That's one approach to it. There are certain people in this world that they have to depress others in order to elevate themselves. And there are certain people out there that just let other people shine and they can shine too. And they're confident. And then, they don't need to necessarily throw other people under the bus to make themselves rise. And, to me, it's like, there's so many things that allow Fred VanVleet to score. There are so many things that need to be done by others in order to allow an offense and a defense to work with him involved. His teammates cover for him all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. And they don't often get credit for it with blocks and steals or whatever. There's sometimes it's just, he lets a guy go and you just bump him off his path and force him to make a pass. And so you sort of cover for Fred there. That's not resulting in a steal. When Fred VanVleet helps you, he's getting credited for it in the box score. Almost every time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he's going to help you by setting you up, it's not going to be, he's going to give you a screen assist or the pass that leads to the pass. No, he's going to get the assist. He's going to give it to you, dish right to your pocket so that you can get a layup. Mm-hmm. And if he's not going to do that, he's going to dish it to you for a three with three in the corner with like 1 second on the clock. So you have to take that shot. So you have to give him the assist.
Right.
Same thing with help defense. Guys help him all the time. They don't get shit for it. They don't get credit for it. But if he helps you, he's getting a steal.
So
he's gambling. It's basically like, look, there are certain, I was very critical of Gary Trent's defense last year. I've been less so this year, partially just I don't think it's as big a deal, and people aren't necessarily buying the Gary Trent's the best defender in the league, type of hype anymore. But he was a beneficiary of so many people doing so much work so that he could gap those passing lanes and collect those steals. And that's sort of misunderstood because at the end of the night, he might end up with 3-4 steals. Ironically, tonight he ends up with 5 steals. And he didn't really produce those steals. If you actually do the tracking work and you go watch the film, he's a beneficiary of someone being forced out of bounds, having to throw a pass, and he just collects it. But that was like a team steal. But he just collects it because that's his role. And so Fred VanVleet is being given a role where he is allowed to put up numbers, as a primary initiator with a screen partner like Jakob Poeltl, where he's given carte blanche to write the offense to whatever pace he wants to run it. Well, he's going to run it to the pace that benefits him, which means that in transition, he's going to slow it down for him because he's slower than Scotty and he's slower than Pascal. I liked his second half more than his first half. Let's just put it that way. But his first half was honestly embarrassing. Second half was fine. I don't really have too much to say about the second half. Second half was good. And honestly, the Raptors were much better in the second half as a result of that.
For sure. My main gripe with Fred is the boneheaded threes early in the shot clock. I get it. He's wide open, but there was 2 times tonight, even though he did shoot a good percentage from 3 tonight, at least I believe. I haven't seen the official.
They were open, man. They were open. The vast majority of them are open. When they were contested, it was air balls. Like he had 2 air balls.
Yeah, that's the ones I'm talking about. The ones that he rushed, they both went off, like didn't even touch the rim. They went to the side of the rim.
But that's my point. It's like can't. We have seen this before. We have seen this guy shoot 10% for an entire playoff series before. I don't need to go and the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. He didn't get taller last I checked, unless I'm unaware of some growth spurt. He's not faster. He's not taller. He's not better at finishing the rim than he's ever been before. So this entire formula of Fred VanVleet being first option decider in the offense and trying to create for other people, this whole thing has failed multiple times. In fact, you want proof? Go watch the first 3 games of last year's playoff series. Oh, but he was injured, right? Go watch the bubble. Go watch him in the bubble. He didn't play well. Go watch the Philly series. The year they won the championship, he didn't play well. So it's like in every single situation where he's asked to do something in the playoffs, it hasn't worked out that well for him, with the exception of the finals. And I find it sort of crazy that it's just not that hard to stop him. That's the problem. He's not that difficult a player to stop. Neither is Pascal, to be honest. No, there's no one on this team that's impossible to stop,
Yeah,
or even very difficult to stop.
I would agree with that statement. I do think that with the addition of Jakob Poeltl, we've gotten someone who can get easier buckets.
He's hard to stop. Ironically, it's ironic. Like Fred VanVleet referred to himself as one of the 2 best players in the post game. In the post game a couple of days ago, and I was thinking to myself, is he better than Jakob Poeltl? I don't think so. If I account for defense, offense, I look at both of them as non-star players. I think Jakob is a way better role player than Fred VanVleet, and he's someone who buys into his role. His screen assists, his passing. I think Jakob is a better passer than Fred VanVleet. Is that a hot take? I don't think so. I think he's a better passer.
Yeah, I just like what Jakob brings to the table. I really do. The development of him from the end of his career in Toronto, which granted, the first stint, which granted he was still very, very young, to now is just crazy. It's wild that he was even putting up numbers and showing flashes on a Spurs team that had absolutely nothing around him. And now you can kind of see his potential. And I had a friend the other day who's not a Raptors fan, but he said if the Spurs knew what they knew now about Poeltl, would they have gave him up for what he did? Because I still believe that they gave up a lot. But could they have gotten more from somebody else?
No, because no one else is sitting there and dying to use Jakob Poeltl in this exact way. And, you and I could say, well, it's a lot better than what they were doing before. And that may be true because, Jakob is a lot better at being Jakob than Scotty was at being Jakob, which is effectively what was happening before Jakob got here, right? Yeah. Scotty was setting the sort of 5-1 screens for Fred VanVleet to go downhill, and then Scotty was the recipient, or Pascal was the recipient, or whatever. Raptors had a slew of health issues. So, is Jakob better at finishing at the rim on Fred VanVleet little pocket passes than Koloko, Precious Achiuwa, and Scotty Barnes? Yeah, because those guys are 21, 22, and 23 respectively, and they're not 7 feet tall, and they're not starting NBA centers, and you're running the same actions with those guys, but ultimately it's the same fucking offense. It's not that different. And I mean, he's a better passer than, frankly, all those guys except for Scotty. I think Scotty's a better passer. I think Scotty's the best passer on this team, and I think Jakob's probably second. So, yeah, those 2 are great passers. And, out of the short roll, I think Fred VanVleet can get clamped. I don't want a first option that can get clamped. I think Siakam can get clamped. So if you have a couple of first options that can get clamped, and honestly, I think Scotty could get clamped, but I think he's a good enough passer to make plays out of it. So everyone's imperfect, but one of those imperfect options is 21.
So here's where I'm at with this team. We don't have a first option. I've been on here multiple times that I've said Pascal's number 2 at best. I think Fred's a fourth option at best. Scotty's still to be determined. Way, way, way too young. I'm not saying he's not first option. Not saying. I mean, he's just still way too young. I don't want to put a tag on a guy that. Not saying he hasn't proven anything, but he hasn't. But
on a good team right now, I think easily Scotty's a third option, second option. Maybe not a second option on a good team because he can't shoot well enough. But if you put him let's just say by magic that, man, Clutch Tatum is going to have a heart attack when he hears this, but let's just say you just throw Scotty on the Boston Celtics, and now suddenly he's a third option with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, right?
Yeah.
I think they're great. I think that's great.
That's the best front court in the league. Well, I guess Jaylen Brown's it too, but yeah.
I mean that would be amazing for him, and he would be such a great connector, and those guys would move off of him a little bit, and he could roll off of their gravity, and it would be great. So he's a great third option right now, and he can evolve into a great first option in my opinion. He has all the physical skill set to do so. And if he just develops a jump shot, he'd be a great second option the second he does so. So, they're all second, third options.
Yeah,
all of them right now. The difference is one of them has the potential to become a first option, and none of the other ones do. Like, I don't think OG necessarily anymore has a. I used to think he might. I thought he might have like a 2% chance. I don't anymore. I think at best he can be a second option, and right now he's a third option, right?
Yeah, he's
So
the most elite role player. One of the most elite role players. Let me correct myself. In the league, um, him with the ball in his hands is kind of sketch, but catch and shoot, rim running. I mean, one of the best in the league. His efficiency has been mind-boggling. I would like to see what would happen if, like you said, that scaled. His efficiency scaled.
mhm.
I hope we see it tomorrow night against the Bucks because, if I'm not mistaken, this is his first game against the Bucks this season. Maybe. Is
Right.
I couldn't tell.
Who's Jakobs?
Oh no.
OGs?
OG was healthy. I was wondering. I don't know why the whole season just mushes together past a certain.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Leanne Chapman for this super chat here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah. Anyway, Lane, any final thoughts here?
Yeah.
What are you looking for this team from tomorrow? What are you looking from this team tomorrow night, and any other any expectations from this team? I actually took this team to cover tonight. Um, so I'm happy I did, even though I got a heart attack when I saw Precious Achua taking threes in the fourth
Yeah.
quarter to close out. I was like, oh my god, just win by 10, win by 10. I just need you to win by 10. Sports betting really does ruin sports, doesn't it? But
It
yeah.
may,
What are you looking for tomorrow?
um. Just to see if we ride the hot hand because I understand if tonight the argument for Fred is that we rode the hot hand in the first half. Sure. But tomorrow, if he's not going, I don't want to see him keep forcing it. I want to see him defer. And if he has the maturity to defer, then I'll respect tonight a lot more than I am right now.
But this is the same thing as saying like he's the only one who can lead because all the maps are gone, right? Like, look, at the end of the day, he took the only shots. Like, he gave himself the offense for the first quarter, okay? Now, playing an entire first quarter where you don't necessarily get touches will throw you out of rhythm for the rest of the game. For a lot of players, it will. There are certain players that need a couple touches every, 3-4 possessions, just to keep themselves in rhythm. And I think Fred's smart enough to realize he has quite a few teammates like that, like OG, Scotty, Pascal, etc. And so there's a lot of mouths to feed in that starting lineup. And he is choosing to elevate Jakob Hurtle above Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby as his second option or third option.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a disaster because while Jakob is definitely more efficient than all those guys, he's also way more efficient than Fred.
Yeah. I'm also excited to see what the Bucks roll out there tomorrow because I don't know if you checked their injury report, but Brooke Lopez is day to day, Crowder's day to day, and Grayson Allen's day to day. And last I checked, Dragic is out. So it'd be interesting to see. I know they've had 2 days off already, but I mean, with the Celtics sliding and then pretty much they can.
Giannis, Middleton, and Drew is enough.
It
At
is.
home,
Yes,
it's enough.
it is. I don't know if they'll force anybody out there because the Celtics are sliding. They pretty much could moonwalk into first place in the East pretty comfortably at this point. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, maybe we find out Middleton's not gonna play tonight, like an hour, well, not tonight, tomorrow night, like an hour before the game for rest. I don't know.
Look, that was my biggest worry facing Boston and Milwaukee later down because they had already secured their season. The fear was how many of these teams are actually going to rest guys down the stretch and potentially gift us wins that aren't real wins. But this media space, they're not going to not call it out. You know what I mean? They're not going to be like, oh, you beat the Bucks without Middleton and Brooke Lopez. No, you're not going to do that, right? No, what we're going to do probably is we're going to beat this team. And, if we do beat this team, and then we're going to be able to say the Raptors beat the best team in the West and the best team in the East.
Yep.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's sad, man. It's sad because people don't have some people don't watch the game. I know a lot of people who watched every single Raptor season for the last 5 years and they've just tuned out of this season. I know people who watch half a quarter and then they're out, or some people who catch games sporadically. And I think it sort of sucks because, this is not as bad as the team's ever been. Obviously, there have been worse seasons than this, clearly they have been worse seasons than this, but the sentiment around those worst seasons was, you were watching something that was on its way up. And right now it's like
Yeah.
you might be watching something that's on its way out the door.
Yeah, yeah. I will say though, I don't think they're as good as many think they are, but they're not as bad as their record shows. I think that's
Right.
a very fair thing to say. I'm not saying they're top 4 in the East, but I don't think that they're 8th or ninth in the East either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, I think overall, like, there were some good moments tonight as well. Obviously, like, it's hard to gauge against an opponent like this, but I liked Gary Trent Jr. tonight.
Yeah.
That step back on Rudy Gobert,
Mhm.
yikes, that's tough. That's really tough to do. I know he kicked his leg out a little bit, but that was really tough to do.
Yeah.
And overall, I think Pascal Siakam, towards the end of it, I think he found himself a little bit more. I liked
Yeah.
towards the end of it, it was a lot better. In the beginning, it was really bad.
So in the third quarter is what, in my opinion, makes it tough for some people when it comes to Siakam or the people that still. I love Siakam, but I know he's not number one option. But the people will point towards the end of that third quarter of, look, the Raptors were down 3 and he rattled off 9 straight. Like, that's what good players do. Pascal Siakam's a good player. We all know that, but he's not a number one option. He will make plays for you. He will make plays, but he's not a guy you can consistently lean on to do that night in and night out.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, look, I use box plus minus a lot, and I don't know how much do you know about analytics? Just curious off the top of my head.
A little bit. As a baseball guy, we use analytics a lot, so I'm really familiar with baseball analytics. Not so familiar with basketball, but I understand what I'm seeing, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, so I was looking at the top players in the league in terms of estimated plus minus,
Mhm.
and it was sort of shocking. To be honest, it was very shocking. To see sort of like who are the leaders on this team and going forward, like, just it was nuts. Like, because someone criticized, they were like, hey, you're using box plus minus and you should be using EPM. And yeah, it was pretty alarming. So we're gonna play a game with you, and EPM is a very respected plus minus stat. And just for anyone who doesn't understand, like, all plus minus stats are basically based on impact on score when players on the court, off the court, etc. And it's usually aggregated per 100. So basically, like, if the offense is scoring like 126 points per 100 possessions with you on the court versus, there's another player where the offense is scoring 96 points per 100 possessions, clearly you're going to benefit off of that, even though technically, you are with 4 other guys and you may consistently be in better lineups than, So we're just going to play a quick game. So let's just assume for a second that EPM is a good stat. And I do think that it is.
Right.
Which of these 2 players do you think has the higher EPM on the season? Michael Porter Jr. or Pascal Siakam?
Michael Porter Jr.,
De'Aaron Fox or Pascal Siakam?
De'Aaron Fox,
Franz Wagner or Pascal Siakam?
I'm gonna go Siakam with this one, just because of the Magic's. It sounds so bad because we're under 500 too, but the Magic's record is a little bit worse. So Siakam.
Wrong. Wagner. Zach
Really?
LaVine or Pascal Siakam?
LaVine, because their issue is the bench.
Yes. Bradley Beal or Pascal Siakam?
Ooh. I'm gonna go Siakam.
It's Beal. Beal is better. Cameron Johnson or Pascal Siakam?
Cameron Johnson, easy.
Yep. Derek White or Pascal Siakam?
Derek White. Oh my gosh, yes, Derek White. That's what I thought of when you were talking about the statistic. I literally thought of Derek White in my head. So yes.
Drew Holiday or Pascal Siakam?
Drew Holiday.
Devin Booker or Pascal Siakam?
Devin Booker.
Aaron Gordon or Pascal Siakam?
Aaron Gordon.
Lauri Markkanen or Pascal Siakam?
Ooh. Lauri's been very efficient. And they were really good before they had really good players before the trade deadline. So I'm gonna go Lauri.
Correct. Jimmy Butler or Pascal Siakam?
Jimmy Buckets.
Kyrie Irving or Pascal Siakam?
Kyrie.
Nick Claxton or Pascal Siakam?
Nick.
Fred VanVleet or Pascal Siakam?
Fred.
Correct. OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam?
OG.
DeMontis Sabonis or Pascal Siakam?
Oh, DeMontis is like top 10 in MVP voting right now. DeMontis.
Mitchell Robinson or Pascal Siakam?
Mitch, because what Brunson has done to that team is he deserves a purple badge of honor. It's revolutionary.
Okay. Alex Caruso or Pascal Siakam?
Oh gosh, I know the answer is Alex Caruso because of the trend.
It's not. It's not.
Oh,
so
okay.
that is the first person
Okay.
he edges on this list. Pascal Siakam is 0.1 better than Alex Caruso.
Right.
He is better also than Bam Adebayo, Walker Kessler, Kyle Anderson, Klay Thompson, Josh Hart, Josh Kogi, Karl Anthony Towns. These are the players that he is ahead of in terms of EPM. Mike Conley, Kyle Kuzma, Draymond Green, Jakob Poeltl, Mikal Bridges. Honestly, Jakob Poeltl's EPM has jumped significantly since joining the Raptors, and I expect that it will climb, but I don't know if he's going to catch up and make the difference. Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie, Andrew Wiggins, Alec Burks, Kenrick Williams, Brandon Ingram, Bojan Bogdanovic. So yeah, so when we talk about Pascal Siakam being a first option, I think that these are the names that need to be in that category. I think people need to stop talking about him. And, you know, someone said Jason Tatum the other day. I was like, oh my God, you have no idea the gap between these two players right now. So yeah, I don't think this is negative. I think this is just this is a reality check, you know, and I think it's also, you know, reality check for me, man. Franz Wagner, like, I would fight someone if someone said Franz Wagner is better than Scotty Barnes. You know what? This season he has been much better. And it's sad to say, but it's true. It's
Franz
100% true.
So much more polished, though. I mean, I'm not a Scotty apologist. I'm a Scotty fan, but I do not defend his every move. I don't defend Pascal's every move. I don't defend Fred's. I mean, you know this about me.
Yep.
But Scotty came into the league as a no-level scorer, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And Franz Wagner came in as a guy that could shoot the three, a guy that could finish around the rim. He came in a lot more polished. Same with Evan Mobley. So people can say what they want about Evan Mobley's game. He couldn't shoot threes before he got into the NBA. Sure. But he came in a lot more polished than Scotty Barnes was. You know what Scotty Barnes was? Scotty Barnes came in as an energy guy. He came in as a bigger Alex Caruso. I mean, I remember watching a podcast and they literally called him a bigger, younger Alex Caruso.
I get it. Look, I absolutely understand that evolution and development are not linear, and that Scotty and Precious and OG, like all of these guys came in. You know, I don't want to call them similar, because they're not. Scotty's obviously like a lot higher up in terms of trajectory, upside. He has like this really amazing passing, but in a lot of ways, they're all 6 foot, 6'8", 6'9" guys who can't really shoot, who can't really create shots for themselves, and they've got to get better at it. And in a weird way, there are 3 cracks at the cherry for Masai Ujiri in terms of developing his next Kawhi, right? And, you know, sometimes it looks like Precious is the easiest option because he's just this really fluid athlete. Sometimes it looks like it's OG because he's already got the defense. And sometimes it looks like it's going to be Scotty because he's got the passing and he's just, you know, developing so fast. But the truth is, all 3 of these guys are extremely incomplete players, and Franz is not an incomplete player. You know
what I've been liking out of Scotty, and I've talked about this before. This past like week and a half, his energy has been amazing, and I know like earlier in the season, it just seemed like he was just so down on himself. He'd make a mistake and then be down, cause a foul, look at the ref with his hands in the air, which is fine. I mean, everybody does it. I know everybody does it. But ever since his energy has shifted, it's done like a complete 180. He's so positive. That freaking poster tonight, I mean, just starts yelling. It really picks everybody up. It really picks everybody up on a team where nobody else does that. Maybe Gary?
Yeah.
Maybe?
No, I mean, look, Gary's talked about it extensively about being an energy giver. And look, these guys, they've chosen, and you know, I very much considered making tonight's podcast named. And if Fred VanVleet had done what he did in the first half and the second half, I was literally going to call tonight's podcast Team Basketball is Dead. And I was going to put a picture of Fred literally holding a gun to this entire fan base or just holding a gun up to the Raptor mascot's head or something. I would have photoshopped it and made it work, because that's really what it is, right? At some point, it's almost like you got to give, right? Do you remember Seinfeld? Do you watch Seinfeld? Are you a fan of Seinfeld at all?
I'm so sorry. I don't watch TV.
You're young. You're young. You're like 20
Fair,
20 years
fair.
old, right?
Yes.
So Seinfeld was a show that was on from 1989 to 1998. And there's this really funny episode where, let me know in the chat, guys, if you're Seinfeld fans and if you remember this moment. So there's this funny episode where Kramer, Elaine, who's one of the main characters, she buys a bike. And she buys this bike, and it's this bike that she had when she was a young girl, and she's always wanted this bike. And she sleeps awkwardly, and her back hurts, and so her neighbor, well, not her neighbor, but her friend Kramer, he offers to fix her back, and she says, "God, I would give that bike to anyone who would fix my back." And he does one little quick thing, and he fixes her back. And so she says it sort of off the cuff, and she's not serious about it, but he expects. He expects that bike. And so there's a kerfuffle or a bit of a brouhaha over who actually is the rightful owner. So they bring in an impartial mediator, which is Newman, a character who is, a resident in the building. And he says, I have a solution. I will cut the bike in half so that each of you can have half the bike each. And Elaine's like, you know what? Screw it. I don't care. Screw it. Fuck. Cut the bike. Cut the bike in half. And it's Kramer who says, you know what? Give it to her. I would rather the bike be given to somebody else than to see it destroyed. That is basically the Raptors in a nutshell this season. You have guys who came in with individual goals. They were made promises by this coaching staff, by this management, that they would be given those expanded roles. And then you have one person who just refused to buy in and say, if I'm not getting mine, I'm not helping anybody. You're not going to fucking put me off the ball and kill my numbers because I'm not thriving in this offense, right? You're not going to fuck me over and allow me to go into free agency and not give me the contract I want. And I'm not winning? No. So basically, we gave Scotty a chance, and he was, injured, struggling early on. He didn't take the step. Okay, we're not going to keep going to him. No. I'm not costing myself millions. It'd be one thing if the Raptors had gone to Scotty as a second option early and he had produced, but now it's on Scotty, right? It's on him. He's the one who didn't take the bull by the horns or take the reins when they were offered to him early in the season, and now we are where we are. You can say it's because of health. He got injured in his 6th game. He also sprained his ankle twice. He was constantly gimpy. You can say it's a lack of preparation. If you're Doug Smith, you're going to say it's because he didn't put enough work in the offseason. You can say whatever. But I have seen this team go through OG and be successful. I have seen this team go through Scotty in the 4th quarter numerous times and be successful. I've seen this team go through Pascal Siakam and play consistently 500 basketball. And I have seen this team go through Fred VanVleet and have the worst stretch of their season ever.
Yeah.
And now that we have come to this point in the season when it's, winning time and all stakes and all bets are on the table and everyone's trying to pad their stats or whatever, you have all these guys who are just like, we just care too much about winning to put our ego over this. Take yours, Fred. It's basically like playing chicken, right? It's like, I hate to keep throwing analogies, but I just want people to understand where I'm coming from on this. It's like playing chicken. Right? You both run to a target and whoever blinks first, right? That's chicken. Well, Fred VanVleet is not a chicken. Fred VanVleet is basically going to say, I'm not flinching. I'm going to keep jacking up shots, and if you guys want the ball, you're going to have to play the way I want to play. I want to jack up shots. You want to play this way, you got to have to jack up shots. And if Scotty's going to pout about it and sulk about it and, be on the sideline saying like, what the fuck are you doing, Fred? Like with his arms up, and OG's going to do that. Well, they tried that. He didn't change. He didn't stop doing what he was going to do.
Yeah.
He's going to keep doing this, and he's going to keep doing this. And if you don't do what he needs you to do right now, which is set picks for him, cheer for him, pat him on his butt and say he's doing a good job, if you're not going to do that for him, you're going to lose. And then you're going to be depressed because you care about winning. All these other guys, they care about winning. Fred VanVleet cares about getting paid. I'm just saying it. Yeah. He can tell me that he cares about winning. He'll care about winning next year when he's been paid. I think right now he cares about getting paid.
Yeah, I think what opened up this rabbit hole was the beginning of last season when Pascal was still injured. And I mean, he literally got the reins the first 19 games of the season, and I believe we were 8-11 through the first 19, or something like that. Because we were 8-13 at one point, so I think we were 8-11, lost the first two, and Pascal came back because everyone was crying for Pascal's head to be on the chopping block. I remember that, but yeah, I mean, all that freedom and the ball in his hands, and I mean, we just came off the Tampa seasons. There was literally zero expectations on last season, and it's just kind of continued. And there is some good qualities with Fred with the ball in his hand, but not the whole darn game. Not for large stretches. He does do a great job with Jakob in the pick and roll. I will give him that. It has completely opened up his game. It really has. It's good. It produces points. It puts points on the board. I think Fred, since Jakob's gotten here, has been a lot better defender because he can gamble a lot more. Because I remember watching Fred, Scotty, and Gary before Jakob. They're all really aggressive defenders.
Would our defense improve if Jeff Doughton played every single minute tonight instead of Fred VanVleet?
Would our defense improve? Ooh, that's a good question. Over Will Barton, yeah. Yeah, but you'd be losing a little bit on the offensive side. And I did see something the other day. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if the only reason Jeff Downs not playing on the Raptors right now is because if he played, I think it's five or six more games.
Seven more games. But this is a non-starter for me because you could have easily just easily converted his contract.
Agreed. It's the same thing last year with Justin Champagnie. There was no reason Champagnie should have been left off the playoff roster for Armani Brooks at all. I mean, there were certain stretches through January last year where Champagnie was our most consistent bench player. I mean, even over
right. I was such a huge fan of Justin Champagnie. I literally found out that he was waived while I was on the live, and I had to stop myself from crying. Yeah. Like, I love Justin Champagnie, man. Like, there's so many guys on this team that I really like. I scouted. I liked. They obviously liked them too because they brought him in. And this team is not just, betting on nobodies. Like, they're taking a real chance. And these guys were doing good stuff, man. Like, Justin Champagnie was killing it in the G League. Like, he was doing good. Like, he was evolving as a shooter. He was a great offensive rebounder. He was a good guy. Extremely awesome character. Like a person. Just such a good person.
Yeah.
And the fact that he wanted out, just it should send so many alarm bells across this fan base.
I mean,
about what's going on with this team.
Last year, I felt like all I saw on Facebook, Twitter, everything was like free Malachi Flynn, free Justin Champagnie. Champagnie deserved those minutes over Malachi Flynn. I think Malachi Flynn, I'm sorry, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I think he's got his chance. I think he's gone this summer. I think Thad's gone this summer. I mean, they're not going to take that $6 million cap hit into next year.
7,
yeah, thank you. But like, what could have been? I mean, Champagnie, he was tall. What was he, 6'7", 6'8"?
6'6".
6, okay, still.
But he has an incredible wingspan, and
exactly.
just that nose for the basketball, you cannot teach that.
I remember the Oklahoma City.
It's out of area rebounds. Like, I think if I had to put if I could quantify it into a test, is he a better rebounder than Pascal Siakam? Yes, he is. He's a better rebounder than Pascal Siakam, and he's 3 inches shorter. That's not look off the bench. I think you need guys like that, especially if you're gonna play stretch bigs or guys like that. Like, they can be very funky matchups too.
For sure.
I think he was a guy who was worth developing for sure. And I mean, for a team that just prides itself on, developing guys, what a steal as an undrafted player. Like, I have so many high hopes for Justin Champagnie.
I'm so surprised he's not in the league right now. I think he's on the Delaware Bluecoats, or no,
he'll catch on, man. He's a good person. He comes from good people. He's surrounded by good people.
His brother's
his brother's awesome too. And it's like they come from, I trust the process. I'm going to sound like a Philly fan but I trust the process of the individual and evolution, and so I will trust that some GM out there will, potentially. But the problem is, he wanted out from here. So it's like, you're looking at it from another team's perspective. Like, who the fuck are you? You're going to do... It's like when Kirkman what's his name? Forkman Korkmaz?
Oh, yes. For the Sixers.
When he demanded a trade?
Yeah.
And you're just looking at yourself like, who the fuck are you to demand a trade? Like, you're not used to, like, bench players demanding trades. This would be like hearing, like, breaking news,
Thaddeus Young, what's out?
Thaddeus Young wants out. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, bro, you're not playing. Like,
I
you
wouldn't
don't
be.
chill.
I would not.
Yeah. Anyway, Lane, thanks a lot for calling in. Really good conversation.
No problem. I appreciate it, man. Have a great night.
Cheers. To close out the night, we are going to do something interesting, which is we're going to watch the presser from the media availability and, enjoy.
Shortest media session. No, Fred, that first half, you really came in and were pretty aggressive, looking for yours, and then were able to kind of, Pascal came and picked up in the second half. And how important is that just to have different guys who can sort of take what's there when it's available?
Yeah, for sure. I thought we just got off to a little bit of a slow start there. So after the first couple of possessions, just trying to push the pace and was able to, find a couple of buckets there, knock some shots down. And then obviously Pascal picked it up in the third. And the fourth made big plays for us. So, yeah, we got to have more than one option and, take whatever the defense is giving us. And I thought we just had a pretty good balanced attack tonight, making the right plays. Even when it wasn't working out, we still were looking for the right things and making the right reads.
Was that something you were mindful of coming into the game, coming in with the right energy because this team's on, second night of back-to-back, like a double OT, misfinished on that?
Yeah, definitely. Try to push the pace. Obviously, we know I watched the game last night, so you know how that finished up. And but more importantly, I think we're at our best when we're playing with energy and pace early on, getting off to good starts. And so it was important to try to get out to a good start and give ourselves an opportunity to compete.
Chris more than held his own against Gobert early in the fourth quarter as Yak was in foul trouble. How important was that stretch for you?
His 19 minutes were amazing tonight. He it's not the stat sheet stuffer like he usually is, but he had a couple great deflections, a couple big time rebounds, box out, making winning plays, offensive rebound tip out. So Chris was amazing for us tonight off the bench, and he deserves a lot of credit for those minutes without Yak in there.
What impresses you about Gary's ability to get in passing lanes and apply ball pressure?
I just think he's at his best when he's being aggressive and being ahead of the play, and with his offensive ability, all he's got to do is be disruptive on that end, get some steals, get out in transition, and I thought that he was great tonight and just changing the rhythm of the game and being out in front of the play and causing some easy transition points for us.
After the last matchup, you said obviously it helps when your two best players playing good at the same time.
Oh, no.
How do you feel like your game and Pascal's game complement each other?
I think just at this point, just got to take what the defense gives. I think we're both at the stage where we're going to get the other team's best look and get the most attention. So the first half, I was taking whatever they were giving me. They put McDaniels on me.
Bro, they left you open a lot. What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? Why are you talking like teams like rate you the way? Okay, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you the teams don't defend him. Obviously, they do defend him, but like, don't act like they're treating you like Ja Morant or Dame Lillard, bro. Like, come on. Come on.
Showed a little bit more attention in the second half, a lot more physicality, brought the bigs up, and Pascal was able to shake free and get some good buckets and find the mismatches on the other end. So we gotta keep working those things, and again, just trying to make the right reads for this team, and I thought we did a good job of that tonight.
Fred, you kind of matched up a little bit with Nikhil Alexander Walker, a couple of different plays, and just kind of, he's a young guy, he's kind of bounced around trying to get some traction. And just in your own experience, how important is it in your development that you've been in one organization and been able to kind of take your lumps and kind of flourish and take your lumps and flourish and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's that security.
Yeah, I mean, it helps, right? We talk about development all the time and the ups and downs that come with that, and it's a lot easier when you're in one place and one organization that, obviously has a long-term plan for you, and you just try to do everything in your power to stay there. And, he's bounced around a little bit, but he's certainly got a ton of talent, a lot of skill, very hard to guard, and I think that, he'll figure it out and find a home that makes sense for him. But he's definitely, his best basketball is in front of him. He's a young kid, and he's got a lot of talent. So I think the sky's the limit. Again, you just, we get these opportunities, you got to make the most of them, and, you don't get to choose when and where and how, but you do get to choose how you approach every day and just being prepared and being ready for, when your number's called.
Obviously, things in the East are pretty tight. I mean, things in the West are tight, too. How closely do you pay attention to the standings of the this time of the year, if at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I think, right now, just focus on playing good for our team. I think that we kind of are where we are, and that whatever that is, the 6 through the 10 or the 7 through the 10 is kind of, up and down, pretty close there. So I think just playing good basketball and not really worrying about who's in front of us or, who's behind us. I think if we play good, we'll win, and if we win, we'll climb the standings, and that's just how it goes this time of year. But I've got our work cut out for us, but I like where we've been at, and we've been pretty focused, the last couple.
Just to clarify, as a fact check, I looked it up, and it is true that if you win, you go up in the standings. I asked an inside source if this was true, and it is true. So, but it's not just true at this time of the season, it's true at all times of the season. However, I just wanted to congratulate Fred VanVleet on telling the truth there. It was really nice. Thank you.
Weeks we got to keep that up.
Is there any kind of friendly competition that goes on between you and OG and Gary? Like the three of you are right there, the steals. You and Gary are pretty much neck and neck.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've been doing it a couple years now, so I'll let them guys have it. Obviously, OG's always at the top of the league. But
how do you let people have
steals?
steals?
More than I do, so maybe I need to start trying to run through the passing lane, see if I can sneak a couple more. But I got to see how many blocks they've given me this year. That might take me over and put me in first place if I count the blocks as steals.
What makes that Milwaukee so tough? And you look at, does that measuring stick game at all tomorrow?
No, I mean, it's a little late for that. I think that it's a good opportunity for us, and I think that if we go get this one against, one of the top teams in the league, that's a great, standard to see where we are. I wouldn't measure it that way, but I think that it's a good opportunity for us, a good challenge off of back-to-back, and what makes them so tough, they got Giannis, and they got Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez. They got a lot of talent and a lot of good vets that have done it. They're champions. They got a championship caliber team and championship caliber coaching staff. So the consistency, right? I think they were first to 50. So yeah, that's a very impressive feat to have, and hopefully we can catch them sleeping a little bit.
You mentioned McDaniels earlier. I'm wondering what you thought of his defense, because Minnesota's been really happy with his progression on that end.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's a great player. I follow one of his trainers, Clint Parks, on Twitter, so I've been able to keep up, and see like more of him than normal over the last year or two. So I've been following his progression, and obviously just with that frame, the athleticism, man, he's got good instincts, he's physical, but he's taking a big jump offensively this year as well. So when they got those guys out there with Edwards, him, Rudy, Anderson, that's a pretty good, wing combination of defenders, and he's pretty damn good on that end of the floor. So definitely, I'm a fan of his game.
It's not often anymore that you get thrown into those matchups against more traditional centers. You did that because of Yak's foul trouble. You had a few possessions against Rudy. How different is it now versus at the sort of beginning of your Raptors tenure?
I mean, it's a lot slower. I'd say, when you guard wings and like guys that could shoot off the corner or doing back cuts and stuff, they move a lot faster. I think, all the years that I've been with the Raptors, I was a big man at first, playing the 5, so it kind of brought me back to that. No roller behind, trying to get deflection off the lobs and stuff. So it was definitely fun to, see that I was still able to do that better.
March Madness question, sorry. Just how much smack talk or conversation is there in the locker room over it?
A lot, especially after Arizona lost. UCLA and all that. I mean, there's a lot of talks going on. We have a lot of guys that are team are making good, and I'm not one of them, but I'm laughing at everybody else.
Anyone else? Nope.
Deux questions en français, s'il vous plaît.
On y va.
Je suis désolé, comment français?
Et que je m'améliore bien.
Yo, why don't they provide subtitles for people who do not speak French?
And tonight it seemed you found different kind of matchups to exploit at different points in the game, and then ride them until you needed to go to a different one. Fred in the first half, Pascal in that third quarter. Is that the way you design this thing? You see what you got and go at it?
Well, I think each game presents, the situation and how things are going. Obviously, Yak got in a little foul trouble there. in the second half. That kind of shifted the rotations a little bit. And I don't know, it just didn't really want to start the fourth with Fred, OG, Pascal all on the bench, and decided to let Pascal was kind of cooking pretty good there at the end of the third. Decided to let him kind of run out 2 or 3 minutes to start the fourth, and then brought Fred back in early. But I thought Chris really impacted the game. He started, it was funny, we went small and Chris ended up on Gobert, and probably was his most difficult matchup of the night was Chris, right? So got his hands on some balls. Gary really impacted the game too. He had at least 5 steals there. I looked down, he had 5, and I thought he got his hands on another one there in the fourth as well. So I thought those two guys, deflected some balls, stole some balls, blocked a couple shots, tied up, jump ball here for Chris. Really impacted the game defensively, as well as, obviously Gary at the offensive end.
You talked yesterday about the mental toughness, rebounding from the disappointment of the trip to now play 3 very good games at home. Even tonight during the game, they kind of rolled with the punches and didn't give in when Minnesota made that run there. It speaks to their mental toughness developing?
Well, it felt like a pretty low energy game. The building was really quiet. I felt like our bench was quiet, their bench was quiet, and I was but then we hit a spark there, and the energy hit, and then we kind of went on our run. I think we did something like maybe 8 straight to end the third to start the fourth or something like that, or a pretty nice run, but we kind of got them on a 2-for-1 to end the quarter. Then we got the ball back to start, so we kind of ended up being a 3-for-1 there that I think we might have scored 7 or 8, maybe 9 points on right there. So then I thought the energy came, I thought we were really moving and pace picked up and all that kind of stuff all throughout the fourth. I just thought we made some really good defensive decisions, and that led to some good offensive decisions.
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
A couple of really good overall games for Gary, to your point earlier. Is it as simple as he's hitting shots and that sort of sparked some other aspects of his game, or is there something else that you're seeing from him recently?
Well, I think it's even simpler than that. It was a little bit under the weather on the road trip, and he tried to play through it and fight through it and just feeling better.
On that note, like in those Lakers and Clippers games, like you ran into some dry spots and you could really use Gary making some tough shots. And tonight, a similar situation presented itself when Yak went out. The offense isn't totally crisp, and he does hit 2 or 3 of them. Like, do you notice that more when he's missing in the Los Angeles games, or when he's hitting them in this game?
I notice them equally. It's good. It's really. I mean, it is a factor though, right? I mean, we need his offensive production. That's kind of his role on the team is to keep that offense ticking over when some of the main guys are off the floor.
With Gary though, like whether it is something where he is under the weather or another situation where he is actually do you just not worry about it at all because of the professionalism that you've talked about in terms of his approach day to day?
Well, I think that he has a lot of confidence, and I think we have a lot of confidence in him, and that's it. And guys aren't going to always have great shooting nights, right? It happens. You try to figure it out, manage it the best when it's not happening, and then get ready to go the next time. And even some of those nights he's not, I'm always thinking, what can we run to get him a clean look and maybe get him going, right? So I think you're trying to manage it all the time.
Coach, you got to put some of your depth players out, especially towards the end of the fourth quarter. How important is it to get them some minutes and also rest your starters with the postseason approaching?
Well, I think it's nice that we were just able to get those guys off the floor in general.
With 3 minutes to go?
There hasn't been a whole lot of those situations this year. It certainly helps this time of year. It certainly helps on a back-to-back for sure a little bit. It was good, even though it's only 3 minutes. got Precious out there for a couple minutes. I'm sure we're going to use him tomorrow night, right? So I think it's good to get him a couple reps down there, better than nothing. So
I'm sure he'd agree.
Yeah, it's always a good situation.
One more. Siakam seems like sort of flipped the switch after that Nasri dunk. Like, what did you like from his game, especially in that third, going to the fourth quarter?
Yo, honestly,
it was
like,
important to try to.
I'm done. Like, I'll let it play out, but like, what the hell? You think Precious Achiuwa is happy? He's gonna go into the off season with like 3 minutes killing. Like, you got to think about this from the player's perspective, yo. Like, you don't want 2-3 minutes played when you were starting games less than a month ago, playing 34-35 minutes. It kills your entire, per game averages. Yeah, I'm sure Precious Achiuwa broke a lamp when he heard that. Like, wow.
On that note, like in those Lakers and Clippers games, like you ran into some dry spots and you could really use Gary making some tough shots. And tonight, the
Wait,
similar
hold on.
situation.
Sorry, guys.
Well, I think that he has a lot of confidence, and I think we have a lot of confidence in him. And that's it. And, guys aren't going to always have great shooting nights, right?
Did we already see
it
this?
happens. You try to figure it out, manage it the best when it's not happening, and then get ready to go the next time. And even some of those nights he's not, I'm always thinking, what can we run to get him a clean look and maybe get him going, right? So I think you're trying to manage it all the time.
Coach, you got to put some of your depth players out, especially towards the end in the fourth quarter. How important is it to get them some minutes and also rest your starters with the postseason?
There we go. Sorry, guys.
Well, I think it's nice that we were just able to get those guys off the floor in general. There hasn't been a whole lot of those situations. Even though it's only 3 minutes, it got Precious out there for a couple minutes.
Oh my God.
Sure we're going to use him tomorrow night, right? So I think it's good to get him a couple reps down there, better than nothing. So yeah, it's always a good situation.
One more. Siakam seems like sort of flipped the switch after that Nasri dunk. Like, what did you like from his game, especially in that third, going to the fourth quarter and getting your tempo back up?
Yeah, again, I think he's had a couple games in a row now where we've seen a lot of variety in what he's doing, and that's what there's been some at the basket, there's been some of his old spin moves, there's been some of his back down fadeaways, there's been some offensive rebounding, right? And I think there's been some transition at the end of it. That to me is his recipe for having a good night.
All right, and on that note, that's the end of this live. And if you haven't subscribed, please do hit subscribe. Helps us out a lot. And on your way out, to the 151 of you who are still with us, 25 past midnight, please do hit like. It really does help the algorithm. It lets YouTube know that you like what you watch here tonight, and I would really appreciate that. It says the live already ended. What do you mean? No, it says it's still going. Yeah. Anyway, have a good one, guys. Peace, and yeah. I'll see you guys tomorrow night, and that's gonna be ha 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 ha. I saw the comment. I appreciate it. It's not the first time I've heard it. People used to say when I was a lot younger and have facial hair and shit, they used to say I look like Angel from Buffy. David Boreanaz. When I was younger, someone told me I look like Leo Messi. I don't know, man. Like, honestly, they look like a lot of different people, I guess. Anyway, all right. Cheers. Yeah. Yeah, Clutch Tatum, we're going to be facing the Boston Celtics, hopefully when they are resting their starters, because something tells me we're going to be desperately in the hunt for 7th. All right. Okay, and, congratulations to us. This didn't exactly take on the tone of positive basketball analysis did it. It was more like, 2 hours of aggressively shitting on how one guy is impacting the offense. But I'm okay with it. Like, I'm okay with it. I think it's worth exploring and worth mentioning and worth sort of exploring the idea of what is being lost in order to, it's like winning the battle, but losing the war. I think the war is long-term development. The war is getting back to being a championship contention level team. In order to do that, your assets need to develop. And in order to do that, your assets need to be under contract and team control for a reasonable amount of time. And every single player that you could possibly trade this offseason, I'm not saying you would want to trade Scotty Barnes, but I'm saying Scotty Barnes is under contract next year. Precious Achiuwa is under contract next year. Malachi Flynn's under contract next year. Every single player who's under contract, their value has lowered since the beginning of this season. And every single player who's eligible for a contract extension, their value has increased. Almost every single player. So do with that as you will. But it's worth thinking about the broader picture. Don't just get caught up in we beat the Timberwolves on a back-to-back at home and we won 7 straight. Yeah, that's great. And obviously it would be a hell of a lot worse if we were talking about a loss to the Timberwolves. But always keep the bigger picture in mind. I think it's worth thinking about. Anyway, cheers, man. Have a good one. Clutch Tatum with a hilarious comment here. Oh, you're not even a Raptor fan? You're just here to spam us with Pascal Siakam comments? Okay. Gotcha. Why? Can you please come on one day and explain why? Did you... I mean, there's potential reasons why Pascal Siakam might be one of your favorite players. You witnessed a tornado when you were a child and you were just attempting to recreate spin cycles. Your parents abandoned you in a laundromat at some point when you were young. Like, do you like merry-go-rounds? Do you like carousels? Do you like things that spin? Are you a big Pascal Siakam fan? Does this make you happy? I don't know. Like, what's going on? I want to understand. I mean, I know a lot of people who are from Cameroon who love him, and I get that. I totally get national pride and stuff. I get it. Like, I was a big fan of Pedro Stojakovic. I get it. But, like, apart from that, I cannot imagine, like, a casual NBA fan being like, yo, Siakam's my guy. Like, I'm a Knicks fan, but Siakam's, like, my favorite player. Like, what? Like, yo, what are you talking about? Anyway. Alrighty, guys. Cheers. Have a good night. He loves McFlurry swirl. That's hilarious.